God, that tastes so
Save your breath for screaming.
Well, I say every day it's a getting closer to taking a bath with my fucking toaster.
We're not qualified.
Explorers in the further regions of experience.
If you do not listen,
Then the hell with you.
greetings, salutations, and welcome to the 148th episode of Screaming into the Void. My name is Samuel the Infamous. I am late as fuck. Joining me today, we have Shadow of Hawk. I don't know why I almost called you Sasquatch of Hawk. That's weird. Maybe it's because you were
Because I
sitting in
am
his spot.
exactly.
Close enough.
Yes, I'm unfortunately. Wait, why is Abe on the bottom?
Because you were first in, dude. It's like a first come, first serve thing.
Okay, gotcha. Howdy, everyone. I'm the Shadow of the Hawk. I am currently painting miniatures because fun.
If you
Nice.
say so. Hi, Abe. How you doing? Abe's with us too.
Yeah, I'm still breathing. Can't complain.
Fair
What's
enough. Fair
going
enough.
on?
So we're going to be a little bit light probably today as far as like panelists goes. I haven't heard from Sasquatch, but that is entirely on me as well. Like I said, I was running really, really late today, which is why we're starting the show 20 minutes late. We're 22 minutes late. We're very late. We're very gay. It is what it is. So I don't know if he'll be here. He may not. We'll see. Gal had a thing come up last minute, so she won't be able to make it, but we will be talking about a topic she brought up in our group chat that I found interesting. And I don't know, maybe other people will show up, maybe they won't. But here we are, so hope we're good enough. Welcome in. And again, I do apologize about the lateness. I got tied up with some shit. And next thing I know, it's like 3 minutes before, and I'm like, fuck, I still got to send out the links. So
Yeah.
yeah. Be more organized than I am, kids, because yeah, this don't work. This don't work. What was that?
I said I refuse.
All right, fine. Wallow in failure. That's fine too.
No, I'll succeed. It'll just be harder.
Anyhow, so we're gonna go ahead and say hello to the chat, and then we'll get into this stuff here. First up, we've got JB. Hey, JB, good to see you. Ardent Party right after that, complaining about the lateness, and again, totally on me. It's not on anybody else. I do apologize about that. Sometimes life does get in the way of doing the things. We also have with us Old Blindy. Howdy. Old Blindy. Pies. Yes, pies. We've got Beak today. Hello. Good to see you. So you also all may have noticed that there are these little crowns and shit that pop up when you put chats in the chat on your YouTube side. I don't know what the fuck that's about. There's this whole XP, like be the top chatter thing with no actual benefits except you get this stupid little fucking crown thing next to your handle.
Yep.
It's all over the place. It's all over YouTube. It's apparently a new feature that we can't fucking disable. I haven't figured out how, if there is a way. So apologies about that. Anna calls them pies.
You also can't enable it either. So either you get it or you don't.
Yeah. So, and I'm not sure why in the hell I got it. You know, I also know because if you remember last week, there was this whole thing where they started not using people's handles and started using their ats in chats.
Yep.
But only
That
on
was dumb.
channels, right? And they were usually much bigger channels. They weren't like, you know, channels as small as this one. So like we never had that issue over here. But like Adam did. Adam's just shy of like 4,000 subs, you know. So he was getting it. Some of the bigger channels were getting it, and it was something that was driving everybody crazy. I don't know if they're still doing it. I think they might have taken it down because they got so many complaints, but they're trying all kinds of new weird shit, and this crown nonsense is part of it. So like that's not me. I have nothing to do with that. That's YouTube. letting you guys know.
I would argue a specific choice YouTube has made, but I am not allowed to talk about it because it would get the channel taken down within 7 minutes of. I have to wait until the 7:01 mark before I start getting racist.
Is there a reason that you keep like hinting at things that'll get the channel taken down and then not saying them? Like what are you trying to tempt fate? Is that what's happening? Are you trying to get their attention on us?
No, but now that you mention it, you might be. I don't know.
I think he likes dangling those things like the sword of Damocles, just sort of like
bringing me on. No, I think
He's
Sam.
like-
I think
it's
Sam's
like,
the
it's
one.
like call me kid one more time. I dare you. You know.
He's like squatting over a piranha tank, dangling his balls and saying, "You can't get these." You know, I mean, sooner or later, one of them fish is going to jump.
Exactly. One of them will figure out how to fly, and Amira will forever hate me because I will have failed priority objective number 1.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to make white babies if you ain't got no white balls.
Mm-hmm.
Cloning technology is on the way, so that's a viable option. Hey, listen, women want to make themselves obsolete. All right, I'll use a machine. I'll build an army.
Ardent party, no, don't.
We see what you're doing.
He could be spelling out Nicaragua. He could be spelling out a Latin American.
It could be. He could be saying Nigel. You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Aaron,
Why
good to
guys
see you.
bullying Arden? Don't bully Arden. Arden's an Arden.
No, Arden's cool. Arden's cool people, but
Yeah.
don't do the column thing.
Mm-hmm.
Towers.
Yeah, that's you know what? The only people I've almost never banned anyone on this channel, right? I reserve the ban hammer for very, very specific cases, almost always bots, right? So like sex bots, you know, they get tossed right out. There are other kinds of bots that'll show up to, you know, periodically. We don't get a ton of them because we're too small for a lot of people to notice, but it does happen. Happens more on the game streams for some reason. I don't know. And there was one game stream I did about 2 years ago. It's the reason that a chap named Rez has a wrench on this channel, and he does show up occasionally, but he was in chat, and we had not one, not two, but 7 different accounts that I had to ban consecutively because they were doing the column thing, right? Or the what did you call it, Shadow?
They're called the N-word towers.
Yeah. It was doing that. And all of them were named some variation of grandma. So there was grandma, then there was grandma 1, then grandma 2, then grandma 3. There was like 6 or 7 of these things, and I had to ban all of them in a row.
Yeah.
You know, and like I'd ban grandma 2, right? And grandma 3 would pop up with the next fucking letter. And I'm just like, okay. It's getting ridiculous. So
The first 3, okay, that's kind of funny. When you start getting into 4 territory, bruh, please stop. Stop being a child.
that's why I think it was automated, because it just kept happening. So anyway, all of those are perma banned. They're not coming back.
Yeah.
I could think of at least 3 people who would like find fun and make just spamming out a bunch of accounts and doing that I know in real life. So the number on the internet is probably at least 4.
For monetization channels, I think it occurs. Yeah, but why would they put it on a channel that's not monetized? Right? That makes no sense. I mean, unless they're doing it across the board, except they're not, because not every channel is getting this.
And also,
So, like,
who gives a fuck?
right. That's kind of how I feel about it. Like, I know Larry likes the competition shit, but I don't think he'd enjoy this one because he can't rig this game. So,
oh, we've got the Aaronator in chat.
Yep. Hi, Aaron. Good to see you. I did see you earlier.
You know, it might not work on you guys. It doesn't work on me because I don't care, but I imagine it's the kind of thing that would work on Gen Z. It might be something to try to, like, you know, poke at certain buttons that make Gen Z want to donate money or to like chat a lot.
Yeah.
Because that
Aaron,
raises impressions and stuff, which would look good for advertisers.
I don't know how to take that statement, Aaron. As far as I know, you're the same age as me.
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm not a granddad, not yet, as far as I know, anyway.
Allegedly, gets a phone call.
No, it's funny, dude. I went to high school with this guy, and we're still friends to this day. Saw him actually a couple days ago, and he's been a grandfather for a while, like a fair amount of time. 10 years maybe, and he's a year younger than I am.
Yeah.
That's
Of
not
course, he
that
started
crazy.
making babies when he was younger than you, though, too, Shadow, because he obeyed his biological imperative.
Yeah, no, I made a mistake going to college. Well, really, not really.
I think everyone
let's be
did,
being
in all
honest.
fairness.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to learn about Iran, so that was
Yeah, but you didn't make
that
any
was-
babies, so what does that matter? Like
I
that
would
knowledge is going to
argue
die with
not-
you.
Hold on, I would argue not making babies in college is a sign of willpower more than anything else.
I think going to college isn't.
I didn't have a choice. I was coerced by the parental authorities. I was given go to
Mhm.
college. Or
He
go
was
to
an
college.
indentured servant the whole time.
Right.
Really. It was more of, hey, I went there and then I was there for a semester, and I'm like, I might as well suffer through the rest of it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Jesus. The bots are getting really bad on fucking Twitter. They're getting bad everywhere. I'm getting bots all over the fucking place.
Hold on, let me look at the recent employment list of individuals working at Twitter.
See, now he's going to get to the
Before
racist shit, folks, because he can't help himself. Dude hates Indians, so he's going to start slamming Indians.
Yes. Listen,
But who is he?
okay,
James Gunn?
Hold on, Sam. Before you get mad, if I was a parrot and I was saying my name back at you, would you give me a cracker?
No.
Okay, well then you're a dick.
Yes.
Listen, okay, when parrots do a pattern recognition, we give them crackers because they've shown that they can do a trick. When I do it, I have to go to HR.
You're not a parrot.
Mm.
Yes, it's a double standard. Parrots get to say
It's
whatever
not.
they
It's
want.
not a double standard. You're not even the same fucking species.
Also, I think you're confusing the fact of you're not the parrot in that scenario. You're the cracker.
I am the parrot. I am the parrot because I did a pattern recognition.
You can mince him up in some applesauce. Sort of feed him to the parrot, like spoon feed him. This is getting pretty bad. Where it's starting to feel like it isn't one of my streams with most cannibalism gets brought up, or at least chopping people up into tiny bits and feeding them to something does.
Derailed.
Like Wild
Winner.
Boar. Fun fact: if you need to, no, that'd actually probably get us banned. Giving advice about how to dispose of a body, that'd probably not be a good idea.
Yeah, maybe
I can
don't
give
do
you
that.
excellent advice. I'm just not going to.
I could probably give you some excellent pointers on that front myself.
Oh, you know
Alleged.
about wild hogs as well?
That's not as effective as you might think. Turns out that some
Yep.
amount of bone and teeth matter can't be digested by them, and if you can find that, you can find DNA. So
Human teeth can't. They shit them out.
turns out there was a pig farm in South Dakota that got shut down for this very reason.
Huh? Because I had heard
7 years ago.
because what I had heard was dogs don't work because they can't dissolve the teeth, but wild hogs can.
No, they can't.
Dang it, I was lied to. The brother lied
Nope.
to me.
And they can. I mean, even if they could, right? That's like you're talking about a lot of bone matter, right? In a single,
No,
they'll eat the whole thing, but they won't necessarily digest the whole thing.
Right, that's why you
I mean,
get
I could tell you how to dispose of the body perfectly, but it would make me sound like a fucking psychopath.
I mean, kebab restaurant.
Sound like?
Eh.
Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna get off this topic. So, because we will get into
We
trouble,
went
we
from-
keep going down this road.
we-
Besides, Anna's
we
not
went
here
from
to
racism-
tell us where we're wrong.
We went from racism to cannibalism to criminality, and Sam is trying to save from ourselves.
Aaron said, "Go ahead, Abe. This is a safe space."
I see that, and
it's not.
that is
Fuck you.
categorically untrue. This is the unsafest space. Like, this isn't even just like regular life, not a safe space. We actually go out of our way to make it less safe.
This is a
Okay,
toxic workplace
you
environment.
wouldn't need a tub of acid either. You wouldn't need any of these things.
Well, that depends on the acid too, right? If you really think about it, because some acids dissolve better than others, and some of them react better with organic materials, and some of them react better with inorganic materials, right? So, like,
Well,
muriatic
is
acid, for example, would be pretty effective, but contrary to what Hollywood would have you believe, hydrochloric acid actually will dissolve everything, but it'll take fucking forever. You know?
That's one of the things Breaking Bad actually got reasonably correct. Is that if you have a container with a certain set of chemicals in it that is designed to dissolve biological matter, it might also dissolve the container too if it's not composed of the right stuff.
Right. If the acid is that strong, right, it's probably going to eat through whatever you're putting in it.
It's probably going to eat everything. Yeah.
You know? So yeah, it's I mean, that depends on a container too, I guess.
Yes.
It's just, there's all kinds of factors that go into that. But yeah, like you want to get the right kind of acid or whatever it is, whatever caustic chemical you're using to do the dissolving. Because just any old acid is not gonna do the trick, right? Vinegar's technically vinegar's a base. But I mean, you can dissolve some things in vinegar too, though. I mean, it's not everything, but like
vinegar is actually it's an excellent cleaning product, especially for metals.
It is. It smells like shit, but it will clean the fuck out of just about anything.
Yes, if you've got very old coins, you could drop them into a mixture of vinegar and something that's fizzy, and it will clean all of the shit off it.
I know people who clean for a living
to do anything.
Who will use vinegar instead of bleach because it will accomplish almost all the it'll kill almost the same amount of shit that bleach will, but it also actually cleans, because bleach, little known fact, bleach doesn't clean anything, it just kills. It just kills things, right? But it won't actually remove like gunk from the surface or whatever. And in fact, it leaves an extra film on it. So you have to go back over it with another chemical to get rid of that layer. But vinegar actually will clean. They both smell awful, but
totally. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, when somebody bleaches their toilet bowl, that doesn't mean that they got all that nasty shit out of the inside of the fucking toilet bowl. That just means they turned it white.
Yeah.
So
pretty much.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
well, do you know what is a great band? Acid Bath. They're fucking great. I love them.
Fair enough.
So every album they made, they adorned it using the artwork of a different serial killer.
Well, they can't all have been artists.
A shocking amount of them were.
I mean, sure, but not all of them.
No, of course not.
Checks out given the parental situation of most serial killers.
I think that's a bit of an urban myth too. Like a lot of them, they had some shitty times with their parents. A lot of them didn't. Some of them were just born fucking wrong. Like people talk about Jeffrey Dahmer, like he was, like that dude was fucked up, right? His parents fucking loved him. They did not abuse him. They did not treat him poorly.
I am more referring to the lack of a father figure than anything.
I'm just saying his father was present and he fucking ate people and then fucked their corpses.
Something tells me he was not a very attentive father.
I wonder if the parents were like, Jeffrey, did you kill a black man today? If you didn't, no dessert for you.
I don't think he graduated to young black gay men until after he moved out of the house and all that. But like all the classic signs are there. Like he was mutilating animals, cats were disappearing in the neighborhood, that kind of thing. But now he was just born.
Who does that
raw.
sound like, Sam? Who does that sound like?
I don't actually kill the fucking things, man. I just don't like them. I don't know why everybody thinks that I'm cruel. I'm not a cruel person. I don't go out of my way to harm shit that's not trying to actively harm me.
Sam builds up this persona of being some kind of monstrous thing from the outer dark, just completely apathetic to human suffering, wants to see the world burn. Also, Sam, why do you guys think I'm so fucking misanthropic?
Yeah.
There we
He's
go.
like,
That's
man,
how
I
it is.
fucking hate these cats. I fucking hate them. They're disgusting. Murder the fucking lot of them. And you're like,
misanthropy
have
is a
you
fair-
done any harm to any cats? He's like, nah, I'd never do that.
I don't. I'm not a cruel guy. I don't go around fucking harming anything just because, like that's
Mhm.
it doesn't serve any real purpose for me. I don't get pleasure out of it, so I don't do it. It's
What
just,
if the
simple.
cat had toxoplasmosis?
All of cats have toxoplasmosis.
No, they don't.
They all do. If they tell you that they
No.
don't, it's because they're lying to you. It's because they want you to believe them. Because they want you.
Well,
to
if a
worship
cat
them.
is
See, the
fucking
thing is-
talking to me,
Oh, no,
I'm
no, no,
either
no.
tripping
Hold up.
balls
Hold up.
or I
hold up,
found
hold
the
up.
most amazing
Hold
creature
the fuck
ever.
up. All cats remember when the Egyptians thought they were gods. They have not forgotten
Yes.
that shit, and they want to bring that back because they're lazy pieces of shit. They already have everything they could ever fucking want, right? But they want you to fucking worship them too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's a good thing I'm a dog person personally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really a dog person either.
Mr. fucking Switzerland over here. Yeah.
You
No,
are a
no,
scorpion
not
person,
Switzerland.
Sam.
I like quiet animals, like very quiet animals.
Yeah.
Like
You-
scorpions.
I like animals that actively tell other animals to fuck off.
I don't
Yeah.
because
No,
I
And
like
that's why I
sleep.
love cats.
Sam's got a thing for he likes scorpions. He likes thorny
It's
devils.
not a thing. I prefer animals that aren't going to fucking scream at me, when they want something.
So get like an old dog that's just too tired to like bark, and that it'll just.
Why don't I just get a dead dog and put it on my fucking mantle after I stuff it?
Yeah, just get one that's stuffed and just have it sat there.
Difference, right?
5 minutes ago,
Same
Sam,
level
why
of
does everyone
energy.
think? Sam, 5 minutes ago, why does everyone think I'm cruel? Also, Sam, why don't I just get a dead dog?
I didn't say I'd kill it, fuckhead.
You're putting words in my mouth, Sam. You're projecting.
No, you're putting words in mine.
No, I'm not. I didn't say anything about you killing it. You're the one who came to that conclusion.
Anyhow,
Mhm.
there are topics today, folks. Believe it or not, we're not just riffing.
Allegedly.
And no, there are.
Supposedly.
Shut the fuck. You know what? You quit. You quit that shit. You knock it off right now. that whole like, oh, he says so, but I don't believe him. You go fuck yourself.
No, thank you.
All right, give me 38 seconds.
Yeah, I don't think it counts unless you like bend it all the way around and insert it up the back. But
Yeah.
Damn, Sam,
Give
you're
that
that
up.
you
athletic.
ever see Wishmaster 2?
Oh, I haven't seen that in donkey's years.
Yeah, but you know that bit where the inmate wishes that his lawyer would go fuck himself,
Mm-hmm.
and then he does. Like his
Yeah.
old torso contorts around, and he just starts ramming it in his own. Half of it's off screen, and it's still one of the most off-puttingly hilarious things I've ever seen in my life.
Pretty damn much. Yeah. Oh, have you seen the trailer for it's the Peter Dinklage version of the Toxic Avenger?
No, I didn't even know that was a
the
thing.
Toxic Avenger.
No, the
Yeah.
Toxie's like 6'5", dude. Peter
Yeah,
Dinklage
and
is
they've
in
got
it. It's a different
Peter
version.
Dinklage playing the character.
The guy whose entire thing was
How?
being a dwarf, and
Are they going to put him on fucking
don't
stilts
know.
or something?
I mean,
And-
yeah, Shadow. It would make sense if he went from Peter Dinklage, and when he morphed, he became a big hulking brute of a character. He doesn't. He just looks like a slightly better looking version of Peter Dinklage.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't know
honestly,
anything
I'm not
about-
surprised, given what they did to some of the characters in the Ironheart show, which apparently in the comics weren't a bunch of gay-looking black people.
Okay,
I
so-
believe in Abe.
Yeah.
you were, I think, coming from like a different headspace here, Shadow, because let's not conflate anything Trauma ever made with anything else that even had a hint of a history of quality. Trauma is
Yeah.
Trauma
Yeah.
is its own thing, right? So like that's like, when you talk about like Ironheart, sure, Ironheart
Yeah.
sucks, right? So does most of the MCU, but at one
It-
time
it-
the
it's-
MCU did not suck, right? And it was mainstream.
Trauma
is
is
not
practically
fucking
its own
mainstream.
genre. Yeah.
Actually, Trauma's the reason that I have no faith in James Gunn running DC, because guess where he started?
Exactly. That's where he cut his teeth.
Yeah.
He learned
So-
all of his craft at Trauma.
And look, I don't have a problem with Trauma. I actually like a lot of Trauma movies, but they're not good
So
movies.
do I.
And they're specifically designed
Sergeant
as shitty
Kabuki
as
Man, my dude.
NYPD. Good.
Sergeant Kabuki Man, fucking
or
legendary.
Nazis Must Die, man. Class of Nukem High.
Yes,
Toxic Avenger 1 through what, 5?
yeah, and that spawned the animated Toxic Crusaders, and that
Yeah.
had comics, and they were all fucking great, bro. I've got all of those action figures as well.
Given value of great. I mean,
Mint
there's a certain amount of,
inbox.
I feel like
grossness
this is
to it.
something.
Yeah.
I feel like this is something from before the towers fell, and thus way older than.
Oh
me.
yeah, it absolutely, dude. It's
Oh, yeah.
something before.
Yeah, like way before. Yeah.
Trauma
This-
started
this
in
is-
the 70s.
This is
dude.
before the boom boom times.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go fetch my deluxe edition of Savage Avengers.
Like think Roger Corman, but with no class.
I don't
and
know
more
who Roger
severed heads.
Corman is. I'm just gonna go read Conan. Let me know when conversations
Mhm.
when I would
I'm
actually
talking
know starts.
Even if
Which
you-
is ironic because Conan is way older.
Yeah.
Yes, but yeah, no, I've got I unironically got like a pile of Conan books sitting on my bookshelf. I bought an omnibus, which is the original Savage Avengers books. Like the
Correct
actual
me if
first
I'm
bunch of
wrong,
issues
but
Marvel
wasn't
did.
I the one who pointed out Howard's work to you in the first place?
No, you told. I found the first movie on Netflix randomly. Found the comics like randomly at a comic shop in the bargain bin, and then I was talking like, "Hey, this is this new thing that I'm all about, and I'm loving it, and it's great." And you're like, "Hey, man, there are books, right?" And I said, "There are books." And then that's when I started looking around Barnes and Noble's.
That was,
Yeah,
that was
not
more
only
of
are
a
there
general
books, but-
question.
They're almost
It's like,
100
do-
years old.
Do you know that there are
Very
books?
good.
Full stop. Oh, I've
Yes,
heard of those.
and
The things with paper, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was on my
No.
phone. I would just walk over to my bookshelf and just show you the monumental amount that I've got on my bookshelf. But I'm not going to do that because I'd have to carry my computer instead, and I don't want to.
Yeah, fair enough. Getting back to the Trauma thing, right? You need to see, if nothing else, you need to see Tromeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
If nothing else, and Abel, back me up on this without spoiling it. Juliet's dream sequence.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely need to see that. But you got to watch it in context with the rest of the movie. So watch the whole movie. I'm not going to say anything else about it because I need you to watch this movie. Oh, man. Yeah. So anyway, moving on. We're going to get into some other topics here. Something that Gal brought up the other day in the private chat that I actually thought would make a pretty solid conversation topic. And it's It's an interesting thought. I'm trying to find it here on the thing, but here we go. Yeah, it's a while back. Everybody's dropping so many links in the chat that I have to scroll pretty far back to find something that was 2 days ago.
I'll take credit. My bad, man.
Some of that is you, yeah. Some of it isn't. Gal drops a lot of shit in the chat too. So,
Mhm.
but all right. Let's see where if I can find the beginning at. The single gayest thing. Oh, that's a different conversation. Okay. Actually, yeah, we can probably try to bring up the actual thing that sparked the conversation too, because I think that'll be good.
Did
What
Sam's
the
mic
hell?
get fucky for anyone else?
Am I what?
Did your mic get did Sam's mic get fucky for anyone else? Because he just got really weird for a second.
No, it's fine for
Oh,
me.
yeah, I don't know. I can't tell. It's fine.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna try and play a thing here and see if it works.
Ooh, thing.
Because
I like
unfortunately, like I said, Gal's not here to make sure that these things work. So it might be a little choppy. I hope it's not. All right. So this is the thing she sent us that sparked kind of the conversation, right? Trigger warning, Christians.
Dry, the water from your head you never consented to. It'll let guilt evaporate and shame fall away. You are one, you are whole, and you belong. Congratulations.
That play okay?
Yeah, played okay.
Yeah.
My biggest question is, was he charging money for that? Because if he was, like, fucking props. Absolute fucking savvy businessman right there.
I mean, there's nothing more American than selling people things they don't actually need.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest with that. I mean,
Just why would you bother?
Well, because
Yeah.
being an ideologically compromised atheist who thinks that, that's a good use of time would probably explain why. For the record, that's not a dig at all atheists. That is specifically the ideologically compromised ones that would actually do that. Those ones.
I mean, the things though, if you just didn't believe in something anyway, but you were baptized into it, why would you go to the lengths of doing that when you don't believe in it anyway? Yeah, exactly, Arden. Yeah.
Because you're trying to because it's fucking performance. It's trying to evoke anger.
It just seems
from
like it's
a
performative bollocks.
Yeah, no,
well,
it's literally just someone goes, "Hey, don't whistle. I don't like it when people whistle," and then you continue to whistle anyway. It's trying to just piss someone off. Only in this case, no one's telling you not to whistle. You just think everyone finds it annoying.
So this is there's more truth to that than I think you realize, Shadow. Because the thing is like what Arden's saying is about you can go to your church and just renounce your religion, right? You can do that, but here's the thing: you don't have to do that. Just because a church has you on their records as a member, active or inactive or whatever the fuck it is, that doesn't mean anything in the long run, right? What means something is if you yourself believe, right? And if you don't, all you have to do is walk the fuck away. Yes. Right? You don't have to say anything to anybody. The paperwork doesn't matter.
Yep.
Nobody's looking at that shit in the afterlife. So yeah, you can just leave. You can just go your own way. You can just do your own thing. The performative aspect of this, and it is performative. It's 100% performative. I mean, if Shadow, honestly, if you're right. If he's charging money, kudos, because he's just hoodwinking these fucking people, and they're just dumb enough to give him the money.
And they deserve to be hoodwinked.
It's like buying a can full of fucking air, right?
No,
that
that's
somebody breathed in or some shit like that. It's really not. You got a can full of fucking nothing, man. Somebody sold you nothing, and you paid for it.
The Facebook groups I'm in say otherwise we're going to run out of air by 2028. I need to start stockpiling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you're not attention seeking and female, I don't think this is strictly a woman thing. So much it is. It is kind of interesting to me, though. You'll hear people say things like blasphemy. I think blasphemy is one of those words that is super important to believers. Doesn't really mean anything to non-believers. So it's
Well,
kind
yeah,
of one of
because I
those
mean,
things.
because if it's a disrespect to God, then I mean, sure, if you believe in that deity, and then you're gonna be pissed the fuck off because hey, you are disrespecting one of the most important facets of my existence. But if you don't believe in it, like, okay, you're
I
not really
mean,
gonna
from
care.
my perspective, it's the same as saying Thor's a bit of a bitch. He is, by the way. Technically,
Maybe.
that's blaspheming against the deity. Technically.
Yeah.
But
Well,
if I'm not if I'm not one of his diehard worshipers, if I'm not even like, genetically one of his fucking people, right? How much weight does that actually hold?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
like I laugh when people say, you're blaspheming or it's heresy when you say these things. It's like, first of all, heresy only applies if you're a fucking believer. Um, like that's the, people go around saying, oh, it's heretical for you to say this thing when you've, either never heard of or you've walked away from or you just don't believe in the thing, right? No, it's not. It's not heresy.
The correct word would be heathen. It is heathen to do that.
Well, heathen encompasses a lot of different things,
Yes.
like multiple
But it is
positions during baby making.
it is significantly more accurate than calling someone a heretic if they are not themselves actually, being a heretic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. But in this case, they are trying to piss people off. They are trying to piss believers off, right? That's what they're attempting to do. Specifically, they're trying to piss Catholics off and like Orthodox. The ones that sprinkle the heads and don't do full immersion. Because they're blow drying the hair off of the water off of your head, kind of thing. That's the symbolism here. So,
I was just assuming they didn't like they're like, yeah, we're gonna debaptize. Dope. How do we do that? Well, if it's water, then we just dry it off. Yeah, hell yeah. So do we just bring a towel? No, it's not very clean. Okay,
right.
blow dryer.
But in the video, he
Shows up.
specifically says the water on your head.
Oh.
Which is a direct dig at like certain groups who actually only just do the sprinkling of the water, like Catholics, for example. Which, of course, you don't want to fully immerse a fucking infant, right? So that makes sense. Like, if you're going to baptize infants, maybe don't dunk them in the pool all the way.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
They don't really know about holding their breath yet. So
they'll be fine.
But that brings us to the main point of contention that I have, aside from the fact that I think this is, just performative bullshittery. The idea that, like I just said, the infants don't know to hold their breath yet. That means they also don't know right from wrong. They don't know consequences. They don't know, there's no accountability in anything they do, right? They have to be taught these things, right? So when you baptize them, that removes any element of personal responsibility or choice from that infant in this regard. And so the question that I was kind of wrestling with a little bit is, at what age is it appropriate to baptize someone? Right? At what age is it appropriate? Should it be when they're an adult? Is there a specific, the Mormons believe there's an age of accountability and consent at 8 years old, and that's why they baptize then, because they think you're old enough to understand what you're undertaking at that point. And I would argue that I don't even know if that's old enough, because I mean, frankly, and this is going to sound fucked up, guys, but follow me here. If you can't consent to the bad things, you can't consent to good things either.
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And coming from the Christian angle, to me, where I do believe in the God, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. I do believe in the doctrine. I do believe in all of that. I'll be sitting in church when they're doing the confessions for baptism, and whenever it's a child, like someone who's 10, 12, like that age coming up, and they're speaking about it, speaking about learning, I'm just sitting here like, they don't fully understand what they're talking about, which is fine. They're a child. They wouldn't know. I didn't know. I didn't really understand this until I was 18, 19, and that was still the loosest version of it. I could not have made a educated, committed choice about it then. So why should you expect
Mhm.
a 8 to 10-year-old to be able to do that? And that's
Well,
something
that's
that's
the
always like
thing.
kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit.
That's the thing. At those ages, you can't
Yeah.
unless you live in a a part of the world where your life is so hard that death is in your face all the time. You can't even conceive that there will be an end to this life, right? Like you
Yeah.
can be told the idea and you can kind of understand the concept of it, but to really understand it, right? That all things are finite, that one day this too shall end. To really grasp that shit, you actually have to get some fucking real life experience under your belt, and that entails some growing up, right? And if you can't do that, then how can you possibly make a lifelong commitment at that age? And it is a commitment,
Yeah.
like if you don't understand the scope of life itself, then you can't commit to something that encompasses the entire scope of that life.
Yeah.
If that
It's
makes
kind
sense.
of a false commitment, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm of the mind that, like, I don't care what you believe. If you want to, believe like in the flying spaghetti monster, for God's sake, go for it. I don't care.
Mm,
What my concern is
Bro, his spaghetti is killer.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
But, if my
four-digit body
concern
count.
is the fact that, I think that if you can't, let's just take it down to basics, right? If you can't buy a pack of cigarettes, you can't buy a porno mag, you can't get an alcoholic drink, and you can't sign up to serve your country and possibly die for it, you shouldn't be fucking being baptized either. I think that that's a choice that you should make as an adult, as an informed adult, right? And I'm not
Yep.
saying that you shouldn't raise your children to believe as you do. I think that's perfectly natural. I just think that the actual committing part of it has to be personal, and it has to be a choice made with as much of the facts as possible.
Yeah. And, kids shouldn't be circumcised either. That's something that should be up to them when they're older.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And only if it's medically necessary.
Well, so in the context of that, at least how my dad discussed it, because my dad is also like, is more religious
Circumcised?
than I am. Well, that's part of the point. So when he was when I was first born, he was debating on whether or not that I should or I shouldn't be circumcised, and he ended up going with it, not necessarily just because of the religious angle, but also the hygiene issues, where he was circumcised when he was a kid. He didn't really know how to take care of it, and he didn't want to risk that creating issues.
Okay.
I mean,
so
it's nonsense, though. Absolute nonsense.
teaching
Who
a
the
kid to
fuck
clean their
doesn't know
foreskin
how
is no
to
different
clean
than
their
teaching
dick?
a kid to clean behind their ears.
Exactly,
Like it's
yes.
something that like you teach them when they're young. Like that the hygiene thing is a smokescreen. That I've never understood why circumcision is
drivel.
as widely practiced in the West, specifically the United States, as it is outside of the Jewish faith. Because when you get right down to it, the whole circumcision thing was part of the covenant that Abraham made with God. I'm actually kind of surprised more Muslims don't do it, to be honest, because they go back to Abraham too. But
Yeah.
the whole practice of it it's a sacrifice,
Yes.
right? It's a piece of your flesh that you give up to symbolize that you will adhere to God and his laws, right? That's what the whole purpose of circumcision was. It wasn't a medical necessity. It wasn't about cleanliness or hygiene. It was, I'm gonna cut a piece of my dick off to prove how loyal I am. That's all it's ever been, right?
Pretty much.
And for the record, they don't do it at infancy either. Generally, I mean, they can, and some sects do, but like generally speaking, like that happens towards more what they call the age of adulthood. Like the 13. When you turn 13, you have your bar mitzvah or your bat mitzvah if you're a girl, kind of thing. And that's traditionally where it's done, when you are considered a man by the laws of the tribe or whatever. And up until, like the fucking end of the 1800s, when we started bringing child labor laws into this country, and 12-year-olds couldn't work at the factory anymore. That was generally considered when you became an adult. There was no teenage anything. There was no tween years. There was child and then adult, right?
There was you do chores around the house, and then there's
part of the reason
wage.
That the laws about pederasty and stuff got set into place, because there were problems with selling off still developing people.
Yeah.
Who you were calling adults into marriage.
That's a pretty big fucking problem.
Yeah. So point is like that was considered closer to an age, and 13 is still older than 8. Like the Mormons consider 8, like, oh, you're old enough to decide if you want to commit to this religion for the rest of your fucking life. No, you're not. You're 8 years old. Have you ever met an 8-year-old? I mean,
sadly.
Their
yes.
Their attention span's pretty low.
Oh.
Yeah, and it ties into wider social issues of why the fuck would you trust a child who you would never trust to choose what to have for dinner or tea that day to make decisions about their gender for the rest of their life? That's permanent.
Because when they're old enough to actually have an informed opinion, they would realize it's really fucking silly. But if you immerse them in it at a young enough age and force them to make a decision they can't come back from, then it becomes not a zero sum game, a sunk cost fallacy, where, well, I've come this far, might as well keep going.
Now,
plus,
tell me the major difference between that and faith.
Well, aside from the fact that, faith doesn't retard your puberty, not very much.
Yes, exactly. So why would you ever trust a child to affirm beliefs they, in all likelihood, have no conception of? Yeah.
Hence why when I was discussing the baptism thing about...
Let me hit you guys with an anecdote here. So my oldest, right, when she was 14 years old, she started wanting to hang out with the Mormons. She wanted to go to their functions and all this stuff. And then one day she's like, I'd like to go to their churches. And she talked to me about it because, I was raised Mormon, right? I left the church when I was 12. I was excommunicated officially when I was 18 because they wouldn't let me do it at 16 or 17. The whole thing about like, oh, your parents have to consent for you to leave the church. I was like, well, they didn't have to consent for me to join it when I was 8, but okay.
Yep.
So I had left. I didn't want anything to do with that anymore, and I'm not affiliated with them anymore, and I'm officially not a member. I haven't been for a very long time. But she wanted to get involved in them. Her and her mom started having missionaries come over. And, which I was fine with them coming over and eating, because I know how these Mormon missionaries, they live on very, very, very little fucking money. They mostly eat ramen for 2 fucking years straight. I have no problem feeding these boys.
Yeah.
It's like, you need some protein, let's get some meat and potatoes in you. But, what I did have a problem with was them bringing, their doctrine, their religion through my door. The only reason I didn't throw a fit about it was because they weren't trying to convert everybody in the house. They were just talking to the 2 people who had asked about things, my wife at the time and my kid. And so she looked at me and she was like, yeah, I'd really like to start going. And I was like, well, if this is something that you want to do, I'll take you and I'll pick you up. I will not go in the building with you, but I will take you there and I'll pick you up. And for months, every Sunday, I took her to church and I came back and I picked her up after. And all that stuff. And it was something that she was really into for a minute, until she wasn't, because, teenagers are fickle like that. And the thing is I had always had an agreement with my wife And because I didn't believe the same thing she did, obviously,
Yeah.
I felt that if the kids ever asked me questions, I would answer them to the best of my ability about whatever, about whatever faith, any faith they care to look into. If I knew something about it, I would ask them. If I didn't know something about it, I would try to find out so I could answer their questions.
Yeah.
And I would present them with as much information as possible so that when the time came that they were old enough and they felt they were informed enough, they could make that decision on their own, because I do believe that faith is a personal thing. It's a very personal thing. And I think it needs to be come to on your own, but that isn't to say that I would hide things from them either. Like they wanted to know what Mormons believed, I'd tell them what Mormons believed. They wanted to know what Hindus believed, I'd tell them what Hindus believed, so on and so forth, and I just figured and if they never asked, fuck it, it's less awkward conversations for me, right? So
yeah.
But I always felt that it was best to be as open and honest about faith with your children as possible, but not to make the decision for them, right? And then this is one of those cases where I because what I believe is entirely, let's just say it doesn't have the same rigid structure that like a Southern Baptist does, for example. Or for the Europeans as an Eastern Orthodox does. Those guys are rigid as fuck.
Yeah.
In fact, they might as well be Muslims.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I don't have that same kind of structure, so I don't necessarily feel the need in my way of believing. Passing it on to the next generation isn't like necessity to save my fucking soul or theirs. That's not how my shit works. But if they were to come to me and they were to ask me about it, yeah, I would tell them, kind of thing. I always thought I should do that. And I understand that, like there are some decisions you have to make for your children, right? You got to make decisions about when they go to bed. You got to make decisions about what they eat.
Yes.
Who they hang out with, and like there has to be some discernible shit there. And there are certain faiths that I would not allow within fucking 100 feet of my kids, because they're nuts. Because they're ultimately harmful in my eyes, like voodoo, for example. No, stay the fuck away, but it's, so yeah, obviously there are parental lines that, must be drawn there. But in terms of like what they were ultimately going to follow, if they choose to follow anything, I felt that was up to them. I still feel that that's up to them. And, I think it should be up to everybody. And I know that's not a tenet of everyone's faith out there. I know Christians in particular and Muslim, the Abrahamic faiths tend to be very, you will believe as your parents believed before you, because otherwise you're going to burn in hell for all eternity. Right. So I understand that there are certain faiths that kind of make it mandatory. I don't believe that way, and I don't think that, I don't think anybody should force that on anybody. I really don't. In the same way that I don't think anybody should force people to fucking mutilate themselves genitalia. Their genitalia. Or I don't know why I said themselves there.
Yeah. They themselves.
Yeah. Whatever. I don't know. Pronouns don't mean anything anymore. Fuck it.
I know it might seem ironic, a man called Abe saying Abrahamic faiths are kind of fucked up and don't have it right. But that's actually what I believe. So, take it or leave it. Do what you want. Believe what you like.
Yep.
Ultimately, I don't think it really makes a difference. I think everything ends in the same place, just as it came from the same place.
I suppose we'll all find out. I don't think any of us knows for sure. I think that's part of the problem. Like nobody really knows. That's what faith is taking a leap without being sure. Like believing something without having like concrete evidence that it's definitely that way, right? That's absolutely what faith is. If you knew for a fact that there's a God in heaven and he loves you and you're going to heaven after you die, if that was something that you knew for a fact, could prove it, could replicate it, right? Then it's not fucking faith, is it?
Exactly, yeah.
It's
And
knowledge.
even if you did know for sure, is it responsible to tell people yes or no? To reveal that truth to people?
Well,
Because
I would.
people aren't exactly rational creatures.
Yeah. Well, also, if you just hand it to someone, then it has no value because they didn't come to that conclusion themselves.
right.
Or they'll
Yeah.
think, or the natural distrust that people have. I mean, for a period of time, I struggled with my faith because I was going through the same logical chain of, okay, well, if God is good and everything he does is good, then why is the world such a shit place? Why is X? Why is this? Why doesn't this fit into certain things? Because all my life I had been told X, Y, and Z. So for a period of
Yeah.
time, I had to balance that. And then I started my own walk. I dealt with some shit that I'm not gonna leave out on the internet, and I came
Mhm.
to certain conclusions on my own.
Yeah.
Had
Confronting
I
your own sexuality is always difficult, mate. Yeah.
That's rough,
Yeah.
especially the
Yeah.
coming out part.
Yeah. I'm glad you did finally do it, though.
He's making a serious point, though. Let's let him finish.
And had I not been, had I not had my dad basically knew that I was struggling with my walk, and had he been the kind
Yeah.
of parent to pull up the belt and force me, I mean, I can't predict what would have happened if I would have actually stayed the course or what. But even if I did stay the course, I wouldn't have come to the conclusion myself. I would have associated disbelief with the lash, and it would not have been, reaching the final conclusion, which I think is kind of like from a different approach to Sam and Abe we're all coming to the same conclusion, I think, of you shouldn't force your beliefs on people. But from the fact that,
Hmm.
in my case as a believer, if you force someone into believing something, basically like beating them with a stick, they're not going to do it because, hey, this is what is right. They're doing it because if I don't do this, then I'm going to be hit with the stick, which is not a way to heaven. It's absolutely not a way to heaven. So that's the Zealots' 2 cents on that.
I think, well, see, that doesn't sound very zealot-like. It sounds like you've actually been giving serious consideration of this stuff, which is something that I think more people need to do.
Yeah.
Sir, I believe in a 4-state solution. I am absolutely a fucking zealot. I am just capable of decent oratory skills.
All right. See if I give you a fucking compliment again.
Yeah. Get fucked, son.
So that's how you want to think about it.
Just fucking take the win.
No, no, I am
Fucking
not.
hell.
No. I refuse to take a win from this group because usually it is followed by some kind of meme depicting me as a prostitute or a homosexual. I refuse.
That happened twice, maybe
No.
to 5 times. 5 times. That
Twice.
was it.
Maybe 15 times this stream. I don't know, but
I didn't even have most of those anymore, man, on this computer.
I have most of them ready to rock. You message Kohai, she'll be like, "Oh yeah, I got those." Pulls up the fucking
they're
shadow folder.
I make no bones about it. They're archived. They're definitely archived. But still, I don't have them at the ready.
If I had a nickel for the number of people that just have memes of me stored away on their freaking computer that I know about, I'd have 4 nickels. That's not a lot, but it's weird. It's odd given just how like insignificant I am in the grand scheme of things that 4 fucking people keep folders, not like a single file, folders of shit about me.
I'm pretty sure Amira's got an entire file on you, bro.
She is not one of the people because I don't have confirmation.
You don't have to have confirmation for it to be a thing.
No, wait, no, it's 5. I'd have 5 fucking nickels. Larry, Sam, Kohai, Suka, and then a buddy of mine in real life. Fuck. Well, no, outside of streaming. I knew him through online stuff, so not real life, but like not this community.
Oh, believe you me, your mother's keeping tabs too.
Yeah.
No, she does not. Bro, she can't even fucking turn an Apple TV on. She doesn't
Oh,
know how
mother.
YouTube
She
works.
doesn't need an Apple TV. She's got a mother's brain.
And I'm honored, Shadow. I'm honored that you think I give so little of a shit about you to be included on that list.
I swear to fuck, Abe, if you've got files, we barely interact. If you've got fucking files of me on your computer, I will be concerned.
Mate, if I really wanted to, you could get a text message any minute now, and it will be from me. And you will have never given me that information.
Oh yeah, no, the dark web exists. I am fully aware of how fucked the dark web is.
You could call it that.
Yeah, the dark
What-
web's really just the surface. There are deeper levels,
I'm aware.
much
I don't like
deeper
thinking
levels.
about them. I don't like thinking about them.
How do you think modern intelligence services operate?
Yeah, I'm aware. Like I said, I don't like thinking about them. I
Yeah.
would like to stay on my. I would like to stay on my Isle of Bliss. Thank you very much. I hope the
Well-
Lovecraft fan would appreciate
Mhm.
that. I want to stay on my island of ignorance, please.
getting back to what you were saying though about coming to these conclusions on your own rather than being driven to them, right? I think is probably the better way to go. I don't know. I'm not much of a philosopher, I suppose, but I think that these questions that everyone eventually has, right? Like the who am I? Where did I come from? Is there something more than what I am? You know, these kinds of questions I think are things that we do need to seriously ponder. And the problem that I'm having is that with so much control of so much institutionalized religion across the world, right? Those questions are being taken out of people's hands at too young an age. You know, like you get up to a certain point and they don't even wait for you to start asking. They just start telling you the answers.
Yeah.
You know, which of course informs your thinking. It's not quite the physical stave that you were referencing there, but they beat it into your head. They drill it into you, you know, from a very, very early age that this is the way things are. This is the way things are. Do not question the way things are, you know. And I don't see any, honestly, I don't see any difference between that kind of shit and the authoritarian shit that we're also seeing from governments. I really don't, you know.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing, I don't have sins. Sins are not a thing in my belief system. Like there are bad things and there are good things, and you maybe don't do the bad things because, you know, there are repercussions for it, but it's more cyclical, karmic in nature, right? If there was to be an actual sin, one of the first would be proselytizing. I fucking despise people who sell their religion to other people at the expense of that other person's fucking own belief system. I hate that shit. I think it's fucking evil.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing if somebody asks you, right? Or if you it comes up in conversation, you're just like, oh, well, I believe this. And they're like, oh, tell me more, right? That's fine. I don't have an issue with that. What I have a problem with is going door to door and trying to convince people that everything they've ever believed up to this point, and possibly their ancestors have ever believed up to this point, is utterly wrong, and that you have the way and they should sign up for your shit. That I have a problem with.
Like the flat out Gnostic statement of this is the truth and fuck everything you've ever believed before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that.
No, it's not something that I care for. And I also don't care for the ridiculously zealous the confidence is not the word I'm looking for. Conviction in the absolute of my way is the only way, and it is the only truth, and it is the only life. Like, look, I will grant you that truth is objective. What I'm saying is that people who say that they know the truth and you don't may not be as objective as they claim.
I'm going to kind of like, because that's one of the things that I paused and thought about when I was like when I was walking and, you know, well, not physically walking, but dealing with it, where if you are not completely, it's kind of tied to faith, where if you're not completely assured in what you believe in, and that there's doubt, and you think, well, maybe someone else is wrong, then you don't actually have faith in what you believe. It's separate from the proselytizing part, where if you are so worried about being wrong that you don't like believe in what you believe in wholeheartedly, then there's no real point in believing in it. Like, why would you, like in my case, why would I believe in Christ if I thought, well, maybe he was just a guy, or maybe it was Judas who got strung up, maybe the Muslims are right, or maybe the Buddhists are like, there's no point in believing in anything that Christ said, which then means like there's no point in adhering to the values because, well, it might be wrong.
Well, see, I
Now,
don't, I
Yeah,
don't
but
fully agree with that.
we mentioned this before. You know, it's like why would the Bible have more intrinsic value than like a fucking Batman comic or Spider-Man or something?
Or any other of the 100 or so religious texts from around the world that are not Christian.
Yeah, or just any fiction. Full stop.
You know, so here's the thing.
context
I don't, Shadow, I don't, it's not the belief in Christ that's at issue for me. You know, like if you believe in him as a God or you don't believe in him as a God, the fact is the dude lived, right? People wrote down the things he supposedly said. Some of the things he supposedly said are good fucking ideas, right? It doesn't really matter if he was actually the son of God or if he was just a dude who thought maybe we shouldn't fucking hate each other, right? Because he said some shit that's true, right? I think that you can find truth in a lot of different places. There's some shit in the Quran that's true too. There's some shit in the Vedas that is definitely fucking true and weirdly have to do with quantum physics from like 4,000 years ago. But
unironically, the Brahmins from before the Islamic invasions of India have a better handle on theoretical physics than we do in some ways. I remember there's a guy I follow.
Yeah.
Where he was going into Indian civilization, and he's like, okay, so they didn't really have good architecture, they didn't really like understand warfare very well, they didn't really have good philosophy, but for some fucking reason, before they even had like a proper like written language, or not written language, before they like he had even encountered another major civilization, they were breaking down what black holes are, they were breaking down string theory, they were breaking down relative motion. And everyone was just like, wow, this is kind of silly, until we got to the technological point where we could talk about this. And we went, how the fuck did you guys know about this?
You need to look into Zoroastrianism.
Mhm.
Zoroastrianism is slightly older and covers all of this stuff, but within like world myths.
The world's oldest monotheistic religion.
Yeah, that's with like the fire and the incest, right? From Persia?
No. Not exactly.
Not
So
sure what you've been reading, but
Yeah. Zoroastrianism is they call it monotheism. It's not really, it's duotheism, but it's you got the good God and the bad God, and they're both aspects of the same God, but they're not really, and it's a whole thing. But
well, yeah, I mean, you could describe Christianity in the same way, but it's still regarded as a monotheistic religion, isn't it?
well, you I suppose you could regard it. That depends. That depends, I guess, on your outlook, right?
One
with
good,
Christianity,
one bad,
you've got,
one yin, one yang.
right, but in Christianity, the God created the bad, and he didn't start out bad. He went bad,
Yeah. And in the context of Christianity, there's
and it's not on the same
God.
level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. In the context of like a deity of a god, like Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, they may not be a one, like they're not all of equal power. Zeus is still the strongest of the three, but they're still within the same firepower bracket. Whereas
Right.
Lucifer compared to God, it's like trying to compare a water pistol to a thermobaric nuclear weapon. Like they're
Sure,
not even in
yeah.
the same fucking league. Hey,
But
Squatch.
I guess
Sasquatch.
Hello.
I guess the point is not so much that like it's not really about whether or not I believe Jesus Christ was the Son of God or was a demigod or was God in the flesh himself, which the Catholics believe, which gets all into the whole weird Lovecraftian, he impregnated a woman with himself kind of thing, and then sacrificed himself to himself kind of thing.
We've all been there.
I don't get that, but whatever. But I don't think it matters if that is even in fact the case, so much as it matters that some people who happen to really dig this dude wrote down some shit that they said that he said that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, so my
Like
main
don't kill, don't steal, be generally nice, fucking, maybe don't fucking be changing money in a temple, right? It seems kind of inappropriate, especially on the Sabbath. Like these, there were some good things in there that I think are universally applicable. And I think that you can learn wisdom from a lot of different places.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that. Like, I mean, I do draw from like the pagan historic traditions from Europe. I look at some of the stuff that the Chinese were talking about from Confucius, Lao Tzu, and go, hey, that makes sense. But my
Well,
main point was more my main point was more like the point about how you don't know for sure, and you may be wrong, you may not be wrong. If you go through life thinking, hey, I might be wrong, then you're not it kind of it's the same thing with like belief, where sure, you don't know for 100%. If you did, it would just be a fact. But if you don't have belief in it, it's just an opinion. It's wishy-washy. It doesn't actually matter.
Aren't you really
That makes
discussing the
sense.
distinction between big F faith and little F faith?
kind of.
Possibly. I don't know.
More
Because you gotta have the faith.
the the root of the root topic of the conversation. Jesus Christ, with the George Michael.
Was age of consent.
The root topic of the conversation was at what age is it appropriate to baptize someone? You know.
I'm sorry, I just woke up. I might have missed some of that.
Yeah, fair enough. So, but yeah, that's really the root of it. It's like at what age is it appropriate, or is it acceptable for a person to make a commitment to a faith or a lifestyle or whatever? Is it,
Yeah, and
I mean,
I think
do we
like an
just draw a
actual.
line with transgenders, or do we also talk about baptism?
I mean, a baptism is meaningless until, as we said, the person's old enough to make a commitment to that belief set to begin with.
Well, a baptism was work. Even if you are, like, let's say, for example, we magically found the age of consent at 18 because of Vietnam drafting laws. Well, not age of consent, but like you're an adult at 18 because of Vietnam drafting laws. If you don't believe truly, if you don't fully understand what you're agreeing to, it doesn't really matter. Like if you're 12, 16, 18, 25, 37, some people don't find faith until like way later in their life. Like Moses didn't find it until he was like what, 60, 70, and he's one of the prophets. He's one of the big boys. So there's not really like a point to locking it down with age. At that point, it just kind of comes down between you and the big guy. No one else.
Well,
can
the
really
difference there, though, is that's a full-grown adult man who came to his own conclusions as an adult man, not a child.
As opposed to like we brought up the Catholics who sprinkle water on the heads of 6-month-olds and call it good.
Yeah.
So
right.
This brings up a question, a scene that I come across actually. If you've watched the movie Civil War, I can't remember the name of that dude who's so creepy. There's a scene in there with this white dude and a pair of aviators comes across a mixed group of journalists, and they're like, "So who are you?" And they're like, "We're Americans." And he's like,
"Yeah,
hey,
what kind of American are you?" Yeah.
So what are you? I'm a Christian. Okay. What kind of Christian?
Yeah.
Unironically,
flavor.
The number of wars that were started, like even before the Protestant Reformation, how many fucking people died over the Hussite Wars? And before that, how many people died because, the Orthodox were like, no, we're not going to submit to the Pope. And the Pope said, fuck you. Die.
Well, even if everybody in the world had the same religious beliefs, war would still happen.
Well, 100%. We would find political and economic reasons to kill each other. Or we would have different, like, important figures.
No, this is a fundamental human thing. We've talked about this before, Shadow. If you are standing next to a guy and he has everything exactly the same as you do, same facial structure, same skin tone, same everything, like you both got pockmarks from fucking acne or whatever, you're wearing the same clothes, you live in houses that are identical with identical lawns with identical dogs shitting in each other's lawns, right? Sooner or later, you're going to find something. Oh, he's got like a little spot of fucking blue on his black pants where he dropped a spot of bleach. That's different than mine. I'm going to fucking attack him over it. It's human nature to find the differences and make them big.
Yeah. Like it could be as simple as you look at this guy and you go, oh, he's just like me. Oh, wait, he's just like me. I can't stand that.
I mean, there's that.
And that's it. War.
It also could be as simple as you're just walking down the street, you find a dude sitting at a park bench eating a banana, you realize you're hungry, it's closer to just walk over, beat them to death, and take the banana than it is to take another step and go to a farmer's market. So
But doesn't that beg the question whether culture is upstream or downstream from religion? Because we have enough differences between us that we don't have to invent new differences to fight about. We would fight about the differences we have without the additional differences. But it reminds me very much of the recent wokery that's been going around everywhere, where everyone has to be put in their little boxes with their little tick notes and their little victimhood points and all of that trash. It's kind of the same thing in that, oh, well, I'm an Orthodox Jewish, whatever type of this, that, or the other. And every so many years, there's some kind of schism, and suddenly you have additional tags that you have to put in that list so that you can tell people what you are. And if you don't use those tags, they'll just give you some tags. And this is where I run into a problem with the modern woke environment. If you get to identify yourself, why do you also get to identify me? Because you don't like me. You don't agree with me. So you're going to identify me as a cis white male, this, that, and the other thing. But when you identify yourself, you're a trans whatever pony or whatever it is. And I'm supposed to believe you, but I'm also supposed to believe you about me. I'm sorry, fuck all of y'all equally. No, I don't have to participate in your delusions. And that goes along with some of the wilder religions as well. Believe me,
a prime example of that would be the introduction into everyday parlance of transgender and then cisgender. So everyone who used to just be normal, who didn't have a label before, now had one. Why?
Because they said so. They wanted
because
a label.
They want to define you, yes, as much as they want to define themselves in spite of all reality.
Well, even the terms I use to describe myself to other people are taken from other groups, right? Pagan is a Christian term. It means to them what Gentile means to Jew, right? It's it means outsider. It means not of us, right? And I use that term because it's widely known and it's widely more or less understood by most people. It's just easier to explain that way. When I use lesser known terms like heathen, for example, which while used in a lot of contexts, the actual terminology for it isn't that common in usage today. You know, it's a little bit more accurate to what I actually am, but it's not 100%. But even that comes from the fucking desert cults.
Yeah.
Right. It comes from their usage of language because they've conquered so much of us. Right. Almost everything we use in reference to ourselves. And this is one of those things where Christians like to crow about this shit online quite a bit too. It's just like, oh, well, if you're so different, if you're not like us, how come you're using our terms? So it's like, because it's endemic in the fucking language, asshole. You know? It's like you people conquered us.
I mean,
yeah, pretty much.
Conquering language is something that's been done the world over for thousands of years, but this recent rash of definitional warfare that has taken place is quite a bit different from previous things, right? Mao's revolution being the most similar method. They would hang a bunch of different descriptions on people so that they could other them later when it was time to form the party, right?
Right, and they're doing the same thing now with all the intersectional bullshit.
Yep,
you know, that's all it is. It's just retold.
I kind of feel like it's marching directly into a brick wall because let's take some of your more famous transgender people are what do they call it? Anti-exclusionary transgender feminists, right?
Yep.
And it's like,
yeah.
Okay, how can you all right, so feminism is a movement that is firmly left-wing and
feminism is a commie front.
Just okay, sure, but it starts firmly in the left wing of American politics, and transgenderism is also fundamentally ensconced in the left wing of American politics. How do they justify voting for men to compete against women in women-only areas and then turn around and try to be mad at men with the whole feminism tactic at the same time. That's
Exactly. Yes. How could you be out here demanding safe spaces for women and simultaneously being an advocate of them being invaded by men?
Not just men, but the least mentally healthy group of men in
Yes.
our entire culture.
Yes. The most unstable, untrustworthy people you could ever meet.
I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again here. There is no such thing as a male feminist. Those are predators. Predators disguise themselves, and they go where the prey are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Male feminists do not exist.
I need socks.
So, also, I would blame the whole
Socks?
suffragette thing probably a little bit on the French too, because I'm pretty sure it started there.
prisons for feet.
I suppose. I don't know. I wear socks all the time. Can't not wear socks. My feet are disgusting, man. You got to cover shit up. It's like,
Actually,
you know how Iranians are. You know how Persians are about hair. That's how I am about fucking feet.
My feet are money makers, baby. I can't tell you because of the NDA, but they got to be protected. It's why I don't take.
And for more information about his feet, go to Only Sasquatches.
I mean, they're pretty big feet.
That's what she said.
That's that's the best pun I got right now. So sorry. I know it sucks.
Yeah, so does she.
So, but yeah, I don't know. I just, this is something I kind of really wish Gal was here today. She couldn't make it, unfortunately. Something came up, but because this was her topic, and I really kind of wanted to hear more from her on this.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe she'll we'll bring it up again sometime. But yeah, it's of interest to me. Like we say that, you know, you can't sign up to go die in a war to defend your country until you're 18. But you're 6 months, you can sign up to join our side of the eternal war now before you even understand what fucking war is.
To be fair, that 18 number is entirely a luxury. Theoretically speaking, a 12-year-old is possessed of fine motor control and
all right, that's enough of
Yes,
that.
that's why we used to use them in factory work, because they had small hands.
Yeah.
Shadow, you do realize you're about to make an argument in favor of child warriors
and labor
depending on the depending on the context. We have the
your
luxury
context
of
was war.
It's the same thing. We have the luxury of not having to do that, so we don't do that. But if we go back to
you, and still agree that luxury is a good thing, that children should not go to war.
Yes,
yeah,
not disputing that.
You know what's funny to me? You go back far enough, right? And people were having a lot more children, but they also had much higher mortality rates among those children. That's part of why they had so many, right? So that maybe some of them might reach adulthood and have children of their own that would then die. When we get through the Industrial Revolution and such, and so part of me thinks that obviously the labor unions had a lot to do with this shit, but part of me thinks that the reason that we have child labor laws in this country has or not the reason that we have child labor laws, but I think that the fact that child labor laws happened have a lot more to do with the mortality rate lowering over the last century than even modern medicine does. Because we're not losing like 6 dozen kids in a fucking factory accident every couple of weeks anymore. So
really bad. I think I did some reading. I was on a guy's show, and I can't remember the name of the channel, but he was talking about how the idea that child labor laws were instituted in the U.S. at the time that it was is amazing, because around that same time period, there were major disasters in various European nations involving children in factories. And he brought up this one particular example. I think it was out of France, but I'm not certain about that, where 22 children were killed in a fire in a textile mill. And it turned out that the reason that they were killed was because the fire the fire alarm system that was being used was a pull cord bell system, and the pull cord had been up too high for the kids to reach. This is horrible. I'm sorry I'm laughing, but after the fire, when they went in, all of the pull cords were still tied above the reach. The fire didn't get that high, but did get all the kids. How fucked up is that?
It's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But again, it goes back to the original point. Like if we stopped letting kids do shit like that, be in those kinds of positions for obvious reasons, right? For their safety. I mean, it was like, a good thing that we stopped doing that. But if we don't think that they're, mature enough or able enough to survive those situations, why in the fuck do we think that they're mature enough to sign up with a god at an even younger age?
Yeah,
because it's fueled by a misguided, clarified, capitalized every letter in the word, a misguided notion that you're saving them. Same reason why you'd have
saving them from what? That's the other thing. They're
Damnation.
fucking children. Saving them from what? What have they done? Right?
Exactly. That's why I said misguided. That's why I said misguided.
Yeah. Bear with me on this just for a second, okay? So the idea is that we're all born sinful, right? We're all born sinful. The problem that I'm having with this is how, right? Because when you're born, right, ideally in the Christian and the Catholic ideology, you're up in heaven, right, with God, right? He makes you, puts you in his baby body, right? At what point did you have an opportunity to commit a fucking sin?
I had it explained to me by a lesbian one time that that original sin has been misunderstood, and that the reason babies are born sinful is because the act of being born is their first act of sex. And I almost chimped out on that one.
What?
I almost chimped out on her, dude. Like I stood up, did exactly the same thing. What
the fuck?
I was like,
no. What the fuck is wrong? What the fuck was wrong with that woman?
Well, I mean, there's a lot wrong with that woman, but I mean, that was one of the lesser sides of her fucking insanity.
That is one of the most fucking out there theories I have ever heard regarding original sin. Like that's crazier than because Adam fucked up, we all fucked up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just had a fit from hearing that.
I
might have had a mini seizure.
Yeah, that's one of the most retarded fucking things I've ever heard.
We were sitting in a relatively crowded restaurant when she explained this, and it had such a shocking effect on everyone around her that the people from the next table over also said, "Say what?" I was like, "Yeah," pointed at him. I was like, "With them, you're crazy. What the hell are you talking about? You're telling me that because a child was being born, regardless of sex, out of their own progenitor's womb, that is a sexual act." And then I realized that it all kind of clicked together for me. This is all pre-Trump, pre all of that. This was, I don't know, 2017, 2016, all that stuff's getting into a real good groove and swing. And this was the talking point she'd come out of college with a year before. She was like, "Oh, well, it's original sin. The original sin is being born. That's why everyone has sinned." And I'm like, so I can't say, say it on YouTube what I told her to do. I was like, "Why don't you fix that sin? Have you a real late stage abortion? Just go ahead and take it out. Or you could get baptized." I mean, you do have choices, but I would prefer this one.
Here's the thing. There's shit like she clearly doesn't know what she's fucking talking about, first of all, or she's completely delusional. Because the very first thing in the Bible that God commands is to go forth and be fruitful and multiply, right?
That's literally the only one that can
the only reason that sex exists is to make that possible. Secondly, if that was a sinful way to do it, why wouldn't God have designed some other way to come into the being?
So that's an interesting point, because several years later, I was at this sort of a family thing. This is attached to a part of my wife's family, and so occasionally we come across each other repeatedly. Her partner, shows up, and
With the U-Haul?
Kind of the same situation, different restaurant 10 years later or so. And the conversation comes up about why the AI revolution and transhumanism is a good thing, is to remove original sin from the population by allowing us to reproduce without sex.
All right, so I don't normally advocate for stoning people in the public square, but
I think they were already stoned, bro. I think they showed up stoned.
not that kind of stone.
This is something I don't get about Judaism either. It's like, why would you come up with so many different ways of defeating your own God's rules just to make life a little bit easier?
I need to fucking mute.
It's absurd.
No, I can't.
You know, you don't have to announce it when you do that, right?
I did it for comedic effect. I'm still fucking muting.
All right.
Okay,
So
you do you,
that's
boo-boo.
actually one of the things I actually like about Judaism, and you know, is the idea that they encourage their adherents to think, to mull things over, to ponder it. I mean, because
we've got all of these rules.
God gave you a brain, use it, right? And I get that, and it isn't just about rules with them. Like they think about everything, and and it's encouraged that they do. There are other faiths where no, you're not encouraged to think. You're encouraged to do as you were fucking told, right? Which sometimes is for your own good. Sometimes it's not. Let's be honest. But that was one of those things that, like, you never hear Christians talk about this shit. Why would a creator give you the capacity to reason if he didn't want you to use it? Right? I mean, the idea is to walk in his footsteps, right? Is to become more like him. Do you think God doesn't reason?
Well, according to Judaism, though, that's not really the point of it. The point is obedience.
The point, I think, it depends on the rabbi you're talking to. B. That's the other problem. That's the main problem with Judaism, which stems from the thing that I like about it, is that nobody agrees on fucking anything, right? Like, I know the Groypers and the white supremacists like to point out like certain passages in the Talmud and the stuff and say like, oh yeah, the Nazis were right because he said this in the Talmud. I was like, well, if you actually read the goddamn thing from cover to cover, what you would understand is that the Talmud is not a religious text. It's a series of philosophical conversations. And in a couple of passages later, after it says that Jesus Christ burns in hell and excrement, which was something that one particular rabbi said what he thought was a possibility, it was then later refuted by another rabbi. It's arguments in a book. It's all it is. Right? It's not a religious fucking
it's the same
text.
as
It's just to encourage
Christianity and Islam in that regard. Yeah.
You know,
there's a whole dialectic going on.
Like their actual religious text is the Torah, and I forget what they call the books that come after in the Old Testament after the first five. But those are their actual religious texts with the actual like religion in them. The Talmud is just it's essentially a fucking series of university lectures, some of which make sense, some of which don't, and a lot of which gets fucking refuted and disproven as through the course of the thing by itself. You know, it's not meant to be a consistent like this is how the world is kind of shit. You know, that it's just some rabbis mouthed off, and other rabbis were like, no, that's stupid. That's the whole book.
It's just so bizarre to me, though, that, you know, here's a set of rules, follow them, following them proves your faith, and then you go out your way to subvert them. What are you proving? And to whom?
I can't really comment too much to that, but the main problem that we're like seeing...
He's putting his jack boots on.
Yeah.
No, because this also applies to the...
That's why he muted. He had to spit shine him first.
No, okay, that is not the shining part, but
anyway.
It's the hue. Oh, thanks so much. It's the hue. The main thing that we're debating about we're not debating about the actual theology. We're not debating about the deities. We're debating about what the humans are doing in response to that. Like, as Sam said earlier, humans are fucking irrational creatures. We don't really understand what we're doing half the damn time. We as a species, not we as the people here.
I hear you.
Squatch.
Humans, individuals, are rational creatures. Human groups are fucking nuts.
Yes, great quote from Men in Black. And that's what a religion is. A religion is a group of humans. Even if you have like the one corrupt bastard, that doesn't necessarily mean all 1,000 people in the church are going to be doing what the one corrupt bastard says. And even if you have the perfect individual speaking, if you have 1,000 people who aren't perfect listening to him, they're going to misapply what they're being told. So
See, that's why I don't tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater when people say this religion bad because this specific pastor or rabbi or imam did something to me. Right.
Well, this is basically what old Blindy in the chat said here as well. Is that, yeah, okay, so we're not perfect. We're all trying to find a certain sense of truth. Then what real value does any religious text have?
Okay.
Because you can find the same value from a comic book or from the advice of a neighbor.
I think the value is that it starts you down the path of thinking about these things. A comic book won't necessarily do that. A comic book is generally escapism.
Why?
So yes,
why
you
wouldn't
can
it be?
find truth. Hold on. While you can find truth in it, you're generally not looking for it there. If you open up a religious text, you're doing so either to prove or disprove it, or to find out. Right? You're already searching for that. It's not about entertainment. It's about the fuck, the word escapes me, but you understand what I'm getting at. That it's more about like the way you're looking at it from the get. Right?
I get your
Like,
point, yeah, but I do think it is a somewhat arbitrary distinction between text.
and then there's the approach.
I kind of got to push back on that one. It's not an arbitrary distinction between texts. The distinction is about 4,000 years long, and without it is not irrelevant. There is not a single comic book in existence that hails from the time of your great 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 grandfather.
Doesn't matter. If something's true, it's true, and if it's not true, it's not true.
But the reverence carried by the word itself is bound in the time it's been on this earth and has been generally accepted by a population who didn't write it either. That's not true for comics. That's not true for films. That's not true for any other medium or even text written hundreds of years ago. Also don't carry the same reverence.
That's just not true about anything, though. Reverence,
just
dependent upon the age of something, is totally arbitrary.
One at a time. Like you guys kind of were talking at the same time. It sort of got muddied. I couldn't tell who was saying what.
Yeah, Sasquatch, go.
Just saying that you disagree and that's not true doesn't bring anything to the argument. And you're attempting to pull air out of the argument by using that method, and that's ridiculous. You cannot compare any piece of written work to any aspect of the primary religious text, because these texts have been around forever, and there's no other medium that has.
And kind of
that's irrelevant.
Hold on.
It's not irrelevant. How can you say it simply? Say it's irrelevant.
Shadow.
You're just saying it doesn't work. I don't believe you, and I'm not going to accept.
I'll go into it. Shadow.
The reason, so both are there. What both of you have said has a degree of truth to it. The reason why people look to the religious texts is due to their age. And yes, Abe, something's age does not determine its immediate value. We have texts that survived a fucking Ian Nasir's business records of his copper. We're not worshiping those as bastions of morality because of their age. The reason why we look to the Bible, the reason why we look to the Quran and stuff, is because the timelessness of what was included, the morals, the lessons, the history, all of it is able to touch you, whether you're a goat herder in the year 300 BC or you're a Zoomer dicking around with a piece of Legos in the year 2025 AD. And then the reason why the Bible is a different thing to a comic book, and this is me being kind of a little bit facetious, is the fact that the morals in, let's say, a Spider-Man or a Batman comic book are from the Bible. Western civilization is not entirely the result of Christianity. There are other aspects, but for the sake of this, point, a lot of the moral values that we find and go, these are Western, are drawn from Christianity. If you were to not have Christianity and yet you still have the same course of history occur, and you get to the point where Stan Lee is making comics, Spider-Man would not have the same moral code that he does because you wouldn't have had the same morals of Christianity fucking words. You get what I'm- permeating throughout Western civilization. So that is the primary difference. Where yes, you can look to a comic book and find
twist.
morals that are
Stan Lee
valuable
was Jewish.
there.
Bum, bum, bum.
I know, right?
But the comics he was working on are immersed in Western civilization, whether or not the Jewish aspect is not necessarily important. The main thing is you can draw the moral values you could draw the good moral values from Spider-Man, from Wolverine, from Superman, from whatever, and that's why it's good that we have these heroes and these legends, but ultimately they're not the same as the book that has compiled everything and stood the test of time. Because those comic books are a reflection of the current society of which they were written in. They may have pieces that are timeless, but the actual text that their morals are derived from is timeless. If that kind of makes sense.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Why isn't
I get
the
your point.
Vedas more revered, or the Book of the Dead, because they're both older than Bible?
Exactly.
Because the Christians were better at killing people is ultimately the main reason.
Did you not know, like, ancient Egypt was pretty goddamn effective at killing people?
Yes, and
Yeah,
that's why
exactly.
that's why they had cultural dominance until other people got better than them.
Only people that ever gave them any real trouble were the fucking Ethiopians.
This is why. So 2 points here, right? One, I'll address Shadow's point there first. I completely agree. Yeah, a lot of the mythos of modern day superheroes and things like that, that was actually an arbitrary example I gave as just anything that you could derive knowledge or moral wisdom from. But yes, they are derived from Western wisdom, but that is also part of a longer, older tradition that predates all Abrahamic faiths. And so to Sasquatch, I would say the arbitrary element of the age of a certain belief system should always be irrelevant. Because if it's true, it's true, and if it's not, it's not. And that may change over time. So the morality of today, even according to any given religious structure, like the religious beliefs of Christians today, almost certainly were not the same moral beliefs of Christians 1,000 years ago. And most certainly not the ones of 1,000 years before that. So simply saying, okay, well, this text is old, therefore we should give it reverence. I don't think we should.
That's what you heard because you wish to just, sail past the reverence and as not meaning it.
Please do steel man the argument for me.
It's not just the age. The reason it's old is not because it was lost in a fucking mine and accidentally discovered 5,000 years later, although some of it has occurred that way.
Dead Sea
The
Scrolls.
reason it's old is because it's been carried physically forward through our entire fucking history to today, because it meant something to the people that were carrying it. Now, sure, it's been changed,
yes,
and all of that stuff is true. I'm not debating that point. I'm simply saying it seems like there's something about it that makes people cleave unto it, whether you want to call it age, reverence, whatever. It's the word itself that tends to carry the power, and less so much a given book or part or aspect. And none of that is applicable in comics. None of it.
Now, yeah, again, that was an arbitrary example, but yeah.
It's a good one. It's a good example. It's applicable. You can pick any other medium you like, and the same statement stands true.
Well, say, for example, I would say to you, I'm a firm believer in the writings of Plato's Republic.
Okay.
In that, he made pretty absolute statements as to what classes should exist and what physical form they're actually composed of. Do we know that to be true or not? We now know, obviously, certain people aren't made of certain things. We're all made of the same shit.
Okay, I was not following.
And that is still, to this day, considered one of the most pivotal philosophical works of human history. Is any of it true?
I get it. It does. I mean, as a thought experiment, it does have to be true. It's kind of like Schrodinger's cat. You don't have to actually use a cat in a box with a piece of radiation. You know.
Yeah, well, of course not.
Thought experiment, and that's what Plato. Most of Plato's writings are essentially really long-winded thought experiments. So
I'm thinking about changing the name of this show to Schrodinger's Void.
it's not. We're not sure. You have to talk first to find out.
Yeah, I get your point in the, and forgive me if I'm mischaracterizing what your point is here, but I think what you're saying is that because it's had value, it's continued to have value through the generations, and therefore it has value, and that's why it's so long-lived. Yes?
The individuals who carried it forward through the space of time it has existed believed that it has value up to this present day. Whether it has any actual value other than being ink on a piece of paper is not really the question. Why this bit of ink and paper is more reverent or revered more, or however you want to frame that, than others is not so much the ink and the paper as it is the actual content of the word itself. And just dismissing 4 or 5,000 years of history just out of hand because it's written, I don't know. It just hit me wrong. I don't necessarily.
No. Well, that's also not what I said.
You said it was irrelevant.
No, for me, it was the aspect of how old it is and how many generations have held it in reverence. That's irrelevant. Something could still be wrong and still be revered for generations. Doesn't make it true. Doesn't make it useful.
That's the point. You're just disregarding the actual point of the statement. So why are you continuing the conversation? I believe
I don't know. I don't really know what your point is now.
All right, guys. I don't want to. This is not a debate show. This is a conversational show. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah, Jesus. I didn't think something so simple
turn me into the raging tomato.
Would be so hard to understand. Jesus.
I might have been hanging around certain people too much. I may need to apologize here.
Hold on, Sam. To be fair, though, conflict does do a lot better on the viewership wise.
I don't care. People come to watch us because they want to watch us, man. I'm not that interested in fucking people, like pushing it out to people who aren't that interested. It's like,
you want some conflict?
In trash TV, frankly.
Sandwiches versus burgers. Let's go.
No, all right, we're not doing that again. Abe. You shut them out. I will shut that shit down right now.
All I'm saying is, who said that chat wouldn't want to see Squatch and Abe hop into an octagon?
I mean, look, like I said, the Raging Tomato channel exists for a reason.
Hey, look, as long as they send some donations to Sasquatch, I'm up for it. Yeah, let's do it.
Have you ever seen how Roddy Piper fights? You got to get
a thumb. Son. They live.
Yeah, but Keith David got a couple of real good licks in there too. So,
I fucking love that scene.
Yeah, I don't know that this is has been unproductive. Like you guys may not have come to like a consensus or whatever. That doesn't necessarily have to be a thing. Like the fact is you both made good points. And
if I would say if thousands of people over thousands of years couldn't do it, I'm pretty sure there's fuck all chance of us doing it within the space of about an hour on a fucking podcast. So,
right. 100%, bro. We're just talking. Yeah. I just kind of found the idea.
As long as we have a good time, we're all good.
If we were capable of reaching into each other's minds with psionics and actually discerning what was the intent rather than the codification of the information,
if you were capable of that, I would fucking end you.
Well, we as a species, Sam, if we didn't have to rely on embedding information within various...
I stand by my statement.
Yes, Sam, I know about your opinions of people being in your head, okay? Listen, it's very roomy. It's very
That's what I
nice.
said, sir.
Rent is you could charge a lot for rent up there.
Oh,
You
you
can't.
sweet,
I've
sweet,
tried
sweet
charging
summer
rent in my
child.
head for a while. It doesn't work. No one pays you. They just stay in your head and you repeat those stupid things. And you wake up in the middle of the night looking around going, that asshole's still on YouTube. Damn.
Why is there chanting coming from under my bed? Sam, what did you do?
I didn't do nothing. You can't prove nothing. I was here the whole
Can't
time.
prove shit.
I think after the
Fair.
stream, I'm going to go sacrifice a bucket of chicken to the Sasquatch God.
Hell yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't think we ever came into any like real answer. I know I monologued quite a bit earlier about what I personally think, but you know, I hope it was worth it. I hope everybody got something out of it. I guess, you know, a laugh. Even.
Well, I'll tell you this much, and it was an arbitrary example, but Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility.
Well, look, like you were saying, like I do believe that there's things that are really good in some of these stories, particularly like, you know, decades ago, not currently, but Superman, for example, is an aspirational character. He isn't, you know, like he's basically, you know, a god, right? For all intents and purposes, right?
Fucking hell,
but
it
isn't his physical abilities that stand him apart, because he behaves the same way when those abilities are removed. It's him being the paragon. Like that's who he is. It's not about his powers, right? He is aspirational because he inspires us to be better than we are. And that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, for the most part, Jesus does a similar thing for a lot of people.
That was the point I was just about to fucking make, Sam. Damn it.
You think you're the first person to draw a parallel between Soups and Christ?
Absolutely not. However, I was thinking I was going to be quicker on the draw about it.
Although more apt would be Moses and Soups, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. Moses, you know, he saved an entire nation. Yeah.
And he was an illegal immigrant and an adoptee.
No, wasn't it wasn't it fuck, what was his name? The Joseph?
He literally floated his ass across the river.
Yeah.
Picked up by tourists. Look at this.
Or illegal. He was
raised as the brother of Ramses. Not even remotely related to him.
Jesus Christ. Where? No.
He's around.
But I mean, that's
somewhere.
my point. It's like Clark Kent is found by the Kents in the same way that Moses is found by the Reeds in his little, you know, bassinet or whatever floating down the fucking river. You know, they're taken in, they're raised up with these families with these certain values and ideals, and they eventually take a stand against what they perceive to be injustice.
I know this is a dumb question, but if y'all...
Oh, and by the way, Superman was created by two Jews, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who were deliberately referencing Moses when they did. So there's that.
You seem to be bringing up the Jews an awful lot, Sam.
They seem to be doing a lot of comic books. I mean,
hold on.
Yeah.
Abe, in his defense, he platforms me, and I say some questionable fucking
All right,
shit.
so
He's just
that's
trying to cover
enough
his bases.
I wasn't. I wasn't referencing to those two guys as Jews because I have a problem with Jews. I was saying they were Jews, and Jews happen to, you know, fall back on their faith in terms of like creativity in a lot of ways, right? Like everybody else does. And in their case, Moses has more meaning to them than Jesus does.
Yep. Yeah. Have y'all read Red Son?
Yes. Red Son is excellent.
The communist one?
Well, yes.
It's a treatise on nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie? Oh yeah, the animated version of it is terrible compared to the comic.
It's terrible.
And that's the assumption I came to.
Don't misunderstand me. It is a beautifully done animation. Everything there looks fantastic. The voices are amazing. Script isn't terrible. It's just that the comic had a lot more to say about human nature in general and his nature, right?
Not just his either.
The ending of the comic as well was just chef's kiss.
I'm guessing it wasn't just Brainiac tries to destroy the world and then Superman becomes a good guy.
I don't know. It was just a what if. A straight up what if.
No,
All right. Instead of
No, it
crashing
wasn't
in
like-
an American fucking cornfield, it crashed in a Russian cornfield. And
Well, it was a
some nice
Ukrainian
Russian
commune
farmers-
during the USSR, but yes.
some nice Russian farmers picked him up, and he was raised in a commune, ate as much as he could possibly stomach, grew strong and willful, you know, and a perfect state-run child. But when it come down to the physical acts of what Superman did, there's virtually no difference.
Like he was working technically directly under Stalin the entire time, and yet he still managed to find ways to subvert like the purges and all the real evil shit. He did everything he could to make sure people didn't die because he's still Superman at heart.
Perfect voice for it too, just like with Truth, Justice, and the American Way. When Superman turned his red sun towards the crowd that he just saved a bus full of school children and tells them, "You must honor the state and put forward your greatest values. We must all follow our great leader," and then flies the fuck away. It has exactly the same effect on them that Superman looking at a bunch of New Yorkers after saving a bus full of school children says, "And remember, only you can bring justice in every home," and flies off, you know?
Yeah.
It's the same. There's no difference essentially in the individual. The difference is in the culture under which the individual was raised.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a beautifully done thing. It's one of my, in fact, I'm not a huge comics person. I all of my comics understanding and learning came vicariously from 3 huge comic nerds that I grew up with. So I got to skip to the front of the line where they just handed me all the controversial ones and was like, "You got to read this, you got to read that, you got to read this." So I'm like educated in specifically the controversial comics. Like, have you ever heard of Ambush Bug?
Yep.
Actually, I think I have, and I think you brought it up once.
It's one of the greatest comic series ever written, and it's because you never know whether it's
If you're into Argyle stocks.
No, if the thing is, you don't know whether this comic is about a guy who's a superhero running around trying to save a chick, or if it's a guy who fell out of a window and bumped his head and is now insane. And it rides the rail all the way through the series until he starts fighting dinosaurs. And it just kind of they jumped the shark. In this case, it was a dozen T-Rexes with an M60. It's just, you know.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
So I have a fairly extensive. I haven't been into comics as a
already gets
thing for about 15 years or so. I kind of dropped off after a while, but for a long time I was really into them. And one of my favorite things that DC ever did was they took the Marvel What If comic, which was an idea, and they applied it across everything in a group of stories they called Elseworlds. Right.
Yeah.
And Red Sun was one of the best of the Elseworlds titles. There are a handful of them that really stand out. There's a bunch of them that are absolute shit too. But there are a handful of them that really, really stand out, along with Batman and Dracula, Red Rain, and the sequels to that, which are I think Bloodstorm and Crimson Mist, which are all excellent, fucking awesome stuff. This one, Hollywood,
like the Cthulhu one.
Hollywood Night. There's one about a guy who is basically, he gets hit in the head. He's an actor. He gets hit in the head. He gets shot in the head and survives. Everybody else on his crew dies while they're out in the Mojave filming Batman serials in the 40s, right? And he wakes up and he thinks he is that character, and he goes to work trying to bring about the justice to the people who shot him, essentially thinking that he's really the superhero he was just playing in fucking in the movie.
One of the best scenes in that, dude, after the gunfire ends and the guys are leaving, they leave, and he's doing that crawl where he knows who he is. He crawls a little bit, and then he passes out. Then he wakes up and he crawls a little bit. He knows who he is. He's like, "I've got to get out of this suit. I need help." Right? That Julie needs help. Samson needs help. Everyone needs help. He crawls a little further. And then that last time when he wakes up, he's like, "Where am I? Why? I'm Batman."
Right.
And
then he passes out again and he wakes up and he's sitting, and then he's like by a fire, and there's this old fucking 49er prospector sitting there. His name is Al Pennyworth.
How much of this is him being insane, and how much of this is legitimate? Because man's walking around with a bullet in his head, but he's Batman. And here's the really
did you ever?
he proceeds to go do Batman things.
Yeah, he does.
He believes it.
Believes it.
Yeah. Did you ever read the Superman story that was written by John Cleese?
What was the name of it?
I can't think of what the name of it actually was, but it was basically the same as Red Son. But what if Superman had been British?
No.
And he's just a complete fucking dork.
Now they've got a good squat going on. Looks like an East Ukrainian in a tracksuit.
His weaknesses are kryptonite and spices.
and really posh bitches.
Bad tea. Mm-hmm.
Bad tea. Just makes to say that. I've got to read that, dude. I've got to read that. Hold up.
He might be on his way to save a life, but if you offer him a good cuppa, he'll stop for a minute and somebody will.
Oh, hell yeah.
All right, hold on. There was a scene from somewhere. What was the show? Oh my god, I can't remember what
it's called. True Brit.
Yeah.
No,
it's actually quite good. It's worth reading. Yeah. You know, it's written by one of the Pythons themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Cleese was a funny guy when he had a mind to be.
Just don't have high expectations of it.
No, I generally don't. Like very very little is going to come up on the Red Rain trilogy for me because Doug Menke wrote that, and he's one of the best Batman writers who has ever lived, and it was illustrated by Kelly Jones. You know, the guy who did all the really super exaggerated bat ears for the Nightfall saga, and all that.
Yeah.
Now imagine him doing that with when Batman's a fucking vampire.
Ardent, yes, it is funny. Yes.
No, it's very, very few things are going to touch that. Red Sun is one of the few that gets up to that level. It was a really, really
that's one of the best Elseworlds or what ifs ever.
Yeah. So I do recommend people read that one. And you know what's fun about it is that communism doesn't ultimately triumph in the end.
Even with the effective demigod guiding it,
yes,
it still can't succeed.
Well, see, that's the mistake that you're making there. He wasn't guiding communism. He was guiding humans to be better people. And when they started being better people, guess what fails? Communism.
Again, all I remember, the only experience I had with Red Sun was trying to watch the movie, and it was basically just America throwing something at him winning because he's Superman, while saying communist talking points, and just not destroying America because I want to prove to them that my system is better, and then Brainiac betrays him. And
you're also forgetting that Lex Luthor was president of the United States, and he was the one who was masterminding all the things they were throwing at him. You know, like it's not,
and he did ultimately turn out to be a good guy.
Yeah,
because Superman was the de facto bad guy.
Yeah, because he was a communist.
Well, it proved everything that Lex has been saying about Supes for years. Correct, right? He's an alien. He's godlike, and he is a threat to everything. He also is definitely a threat to everything Lex Luthor stands for, who, as the previous Man of Tomorrow, wanted to be the man everyone looked to. That's why he got so pissy when Supes showed up.
You know what Lex Luthor actually needed?
He stole his press.
He would, yes, exactly right. He should have come across Tony Stark, and him and Luthor and Hammer should have had like some serious shindigging going on, and Luthor could have popped out with a Johnny Come Lately suit, right? Like just like Ironheart. How many of us has watched Ironheart? I wish to bleach my eyes now.
No.
I don't even want to talk about it. I haven't seen it. I don't care.
Yeah,
it's I
finished watching it earlier.
I have one good thing to say about it. I'll leave it alone. It has the best 2020 nostalgia that I have seen since 2020.
You said this last time on Dragon Ball Z. You mentioned that's like the one redeeming factor.
This is better though.
If you say so.
The only thing that good to come out of Ironheart is all the Tony Stark hype edits, because it's her like, if I had his money, I could do whatever I want, and then it reverbs into the oh, this is a cave. What a scratch! And then you get the beat drop, and then it's just shots of Iron Man being epic. That's the only good shit to come out of that dog awful show. Dog awful? I need caffeine.
Dog water.
Is an interesting way to put that.
Definitely dog water.
I don't fucking know, man. Okay, I'm not caffeinated. Am I caffeinated?
I'm not caffeinated.
Squash is not caffeinated. We know that.
This is super interesting. So Google is apparently purging all mention of the 2014 Japanese adult video Ironheart, which they stole, by the way, the entire concept from.
You mean the better Ironheart?
When you type in Ironheart 2014, all that comes up are images of this fucking TV show and things related to it. You can't find any of the original stuff here. I'm scrolling down this like page 4. They purged it. They fucking purged it.
What do you expect, bro? Like, if they can't control the narrative, they lose all control at all. And so these little things that you find that people wouldn't normally care about, some adult film made back in 2014 that happens to share a name, a plot, topics, main characters, and physical characters.
What the hell is this? There's an Ironheart helmet that says Black Panther Wakanda Forever on it.
Yes, because the normies only understand World War II and Marvel films. They're fucking retarded.
But like I said, dude,
Riri's not from fucking Wakanda.
She would have been if she wasn't stolen by those evil slavers.
She's from fucking. She's like from Brooklyn.
She's from Chicago, isn't she, or something?
I don't know. She's American.
If the slave trade never happened, the people who couldn't replace a cowhide over a stump would have made Wakanda in real life.
Yeah, that's why Congo's still chock full of mud huts
and slaves.
Mm-hmm.
So, just so you know.
Her capital.
Well, who do you think made the mud huts?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, if you were a slave, would you really work on your craftsmanship?
Not really, no. You'd get beaten to death.
Yeah.
I mean, the Romans had. I think Romans might have had something good going for them that we kind of screwed up. They had tierages of slaves. You weren't just a slave. You could be a slave for a year. You could be a slave for a month. You could sell your tenure for however long you wanted to. And most of them, at least they had a word for it. It was your home slaves, your town slaves, your service industry, essentially, right?
Yeah.
These people were slaves, but only in the sense of indentured servitude, where they sold their time in the future for lump sums now, basically. So they're slaves. And then you got the country store mentality that comes in only when you go to get started with that shit.
Okay, I think I finally found it. I'm not going to obviously play any of this stuff because this is a porn parody, but I will show the poster and whatnots.
Emphasis on porn.
Yes, this is Ironheart. This is the only Ironheart as far as I'm concerned. And yeah. And yes,
top build cast.
Yeah.
What?
Well, this is like Japanese, it's TMDB, it's not IMDb. So, it's like Temu movie database.
Also, okay,
yeah, there's not a lot on here, but this is the only place I could find this fucking image at.
If I had a nickel for the number of adult film parodies of something that had better suits than the real example, I would have 3 nickels. That's not a lot, but it's depressing that I have those 3 nickels.
Right. I don't want
it's Ironheart, Captain Marvel, and what?
Sorry, that was me mouthing off. Go ahead.
Ironheart, Captain Marvel, and Wonder Woman.
All right, forgive me, Father, for I've sinned. I had a sudden epiphany the other day that just happened while I was in the middle of eating some chicken nuggets, and I feel really bad for having not thought of it before. And I'm sure it's been
Mhm.
explained to me, and I don't know, didn't register it or whatever. But in Twilight, these vampires are very, very, very old and sparkly, right?
Yes.
And he's going for a
Unfortunately.
14-year-old girl.
Yep.
Ew. I never made that
Mhm.
connection. I don't know how.
Is it-
How?
It's
Sam
it's,
has
it's
made-
it's
Sam
worse.
has
It's
said
worse, Sasquatch. Yes, it is much worse. It's not that the 14-year-old vampire is going for the 14-year-old
No.
girl. Like, look, the basic premise of the series is that an underage girl has to choose between fucking a corpse or a dog.
Right, exactly. That is
The
exactly.
dog picks her,
Yeah.
and then the dog
my-
picks her
no
newly born
bullshit.
child.
I was sitting next to my wife riding shotgun while we were coming back from getting our chicken noogies, and I'm over there eating one of my noogies, and it hit me like a cold bucket of fucking water. I went, wait a second. You mean to tell me that the sparkly vampires are hundreds, maybe thousands of years old? She's like, yeah.
Yep.
And the other guy over there is like some kind of a lycanthrope werewolf kind of thing. She's like, yeah. So you tell me that entire fucking series is about her arguing about whether she's going to fuck a corpse or a dog. And my wife almost wrecked the car. All of that shit collapsed down on my head all at the same time while I was sitting shotgun eating my chicken nuggies.
Nice.
Have you missed every single time Sam has brought this up? Because this isn't the first time. This isn't the 5th time. This isn't the 10th time. I've heard him bring this
All
up
right.
like 20 or 30 times over the
Okay,
years.
Well,
that I've
look,
known
man, I think Stephanie Meyer is a hack.
Stop!
My
Those are fucking
daughters-
hacks.
Hold on. I have 2 daughters. Both of my daughters loved the Twilight series, and so I was subsumed. I have a Twilight New Moon marquee in my living room in there. 6 foot tall, dude. It's taller than I am. And yes, I know that's weird, but okay, it's there. They like the freaking series. So my brain went full smooth on all of that. I recall none of it. If I put in the movie today, the only thing I would recognize are the actors themselves, because I don't think I ever watched any of it. But yes, I do feel like a moron. I
So
just have-
keep all that in mind as I hit you with this. Brian Michael Bendis creates Ironheart in 2015, right?
Yep.
He takes the design of this costume, tweaks it just enough, takes the name, doesn't really tweak it at all, right? And applies it to a underage black girl who is inspired, quote unquote, by his, at the time, underage adopted daughter, who was also a black girl. The black girl has nothing to do with anything. I'm just like, it's descriptive. But she was underage, right? And he applied his image in his head of his underage adopted daughter to a porn character and then sold it to Marvel. You
Yep.
see where I'm going with this? This porn character, specifically, the one on the screen, who is of age, by the way.
Sure. I don't know.
Japanese, it's hard to
What
tell.
slapped me in the face was the idea that I don't know how old the kid in that movie was supposed to be, 400 years old or whatever. I have no freaking clue. Does anybody know? I don't know. But anyway,
I don't care.
would be interested in a high school student is weird.
I mean,
unless
if
already
he's a vampire, his only interest should be in how much of a snack she is.
and she's not that much. Oh wait, no, you mean like I got you.
Yeah, like
fuck,
actual
Sam-
food.
Sam. I tweeted that out earlier today, actually, that Twilight did irreparable damage to vampires, because before they were irredeemable monsters, but now they're making understanding people. Fucking
That is only partially
okay,
correct. It actually starts with Bram Stoker and extends to Anne Rice. But yeah, Stephanie Meyer kind of put the final nail in the coffin.
Right.
You're
Well,
talking about PR damage.
with Twilight, right? The reason why Edward Cullen is attracted to Bella is because he can't read her mind, which is his special power. So he's basically telepathic. He knows everything everybody's thinking except for her.
Read the books,
But-
did you?
And the other guy's a dog.
Why
Right.
the fuck?
No,
do
I
you
just
know
watched
that,
the
Abe?
fucking film.
No,
Why
I'm just saying.
do that to yourself. Don't fucking
Look,
say for a
sometimes I'm a
dog.
glutton for punishment, okay?
I mean, I don't
That is
usually recommend this as a palate cleanser, but maybe watch 30 Days of Night.
Jeez.
That is a
That was this. The irreparable harm done to the PR vampires in general was done by Anne Rice. I mean, you can make some arguments about Bram Stoker and a handful of other things that are out there. There's this really good book called The Stress of Her Regard, which is about something like vampires.
You could make the argument about Lenore by Poe, which was almost 100 years prior to Dracula.
But the PR damage was done. I mean, Anne Rice turned them all gay. So there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she also did that in the 1970s, which was Stephanie Meyer wasn't even born yet, I think.
Yeah, I got you. Gay vampires. So
yeah, like I don't want to put all of that on Meyer's shoulders. She's a shit writer and she stole all of her ideas from other people. But she's you know, and they were all shit ideas to begin with, now that I think about it. But anyway, but she wasn't the one who ultimately sealed the vampire's fate in fiction. I mean, that started years and years before. Ever since since Dracula, since he shows up as this like perfectly coiffed gentleman who is hypnotic and attractive and, you know, all the things that makes Mina fall in love with him and all that shit. Because prior to that, they weren't gentlemanly. They were beasts. You know, they were filthy. They smelled bad. You could smell them coming. You know, they would not be confused with noblemen in any sense, kind of thing. So yeah, I think that it really begins in earnest with Dracula. The difference is that Dracula is unapologetically an absolute monster, right? So is Lestat, for that matter. It's Louis who has the fucking conscience,
right? Every other vampire out there is tearing themselves apart about what is good and evil and how they want to feed on people,
right?
Lestat. Yeah. He does the evildoer specifically because it's sort of he feels that it is better for a predator to predate on predators than to attack the innocent.
Hey, Larry.
Attack the innocent at will.
Yeah, but he does eat lots of innocent people too.
Right, that's what I'm saying. He's an equal opportunity destroyer, whereas Louis comes along and he's like, "But there has to be a better way."
He's a bit of a bitch about it, yeah. You know,
all I need to find you, Louis, is to follow the corpses of rats.
Well, and that was the fundamental bit of philosophy that occurs in Interview with the Vampire, right? Is like, should we still behave as though we have human conscience, right? Or are we something wholly other, as Lestat puts forth, right? Like that was kind of an interesting idea that she put in there, but that everybody took it and fucking ran with it after that. And now they're all like these tortured, lonely souls who really want to be good. And oh gosh, I have to look away because you have a paper cut kind of shit. Like it's. Although to be fair, Dracula did that too when Harker cut himself shaving, but he was trying not to murder the guy who was filling out his fucking legal paperwork. So
what you're telling me is you had an interesting shift of the trope, you know, something new and unique, and then a bunch of less skilled writers looked at that and went, "Hey, that's popular. Let me do that." And the masses went, "Wow, this is like the thing I like. I love it."
Worse.
And that leads us, then that leads us to the boys. I mean, to the Twilight.
We've got Stephanie Meyer writing Twilight, and it was such a hit that I don't even remember the bitch's name who wrote this. 50 Shades of Grey is Twilight fan fiction.
Yes. Don't fucking remember.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
There aren't even any vampires in that.
All right. So I want to go back to the Anne Rice vampires thing. How stupid these people really were. They were living in an era when slavery was completely acceptable in the eyes of most nations on earth, and yet they kept getting caught because they were killing people. They could have literally set up a human farm, a literal breeding program for flavor and consistency, and no one would have batted a fucking eye, and not one of them actually took advantage of that shit that was written of. They were all tortured fucking souls who couldn't decide what they were going to do with their preternatural powers.
And that's why I recommend 30 Days at Night as a palate cleanser when you watch these gay-ass sparkly vampire movies, is because it will remind you of what they're supposed to be: brutal, merciless,
Yep.
You know, they don't even bother to speak the language of the food they're eating in that movie.
Right?
Yeah, they understand them just fine. It's beneath them.
They speak Hittite or something.
Yeah. Oh, fucking great movie too, by the way. If you're into that sort of thing. Good movies, I mean. Based on a comic book, by the way, for those who don't know.
Yep.
Don't watch the sequel though, it's not good.
Yeah.
Hey Larry, what's up? What's going on?
What's up?
Not too much, not too much.
I see Ironheart all of a sudden is an Asian lady.
No, that was Ironheart.
That was the
original form.
That's the original.
Ironheart
Yeah.
is suddenly an average black woman
Yeah.
with all of the access of MIT.
That
Well,
Asian lady
the black
was-
woman is a ripoff of a porn parody.
Yeah, that Asian lady is a porn parody movie that was ripped off by Brian Michael Bendis to create the Marvel character.
Allegedly.
It came out the year before.
Well,
Just saying for
you know how they legitimize Ironheart being a black woman? Isn't it the story is that she stole the armor from Tony Stark or something like that?
Yeah.
She stole
She
it.
stole
Yeah.
from she
it
stole
actually
from
happens a few
MIT.
times. In the Iron Man history, several of his suits of armor were stolen, and some were lost.
How did
Some were
Rhodey get
destroyed.
his suit? How did Rhodey get his suit?
Stole it.
I'm noticing a
He
trend.
didn't steal it. He didn't actually steal that. Tony left that. It was keyed specifically to Rhodey.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember. I saw it recently. That was a point Tony made. I'm just making a very racist joke. Sam, why'd you have to ruin it?
Mhm. I was just going to say, I'm half expecting
And I'm
Shadow
saying
to,
Rhodey's one of the good ones.
to make a smoke detector chirp around about now.
You don't have a soundboard.
I've been meaning to freaking add one of those, just
Yeah.
just to troll some of my friends.
Yeah,
But I didn't
That's a
have
pretty
to
good
because
bit.
it's actually happening in their home. So I just laughed a lot every time it chirped. I laughed. They're like, "What are you laughing at?" Because you funny, brother.
Squatch, have you ever played Repo with any of them?
What was it?
Have you ever played Repo with any of them?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a video
long
game.
story- Fucking Abe.
Whose fire alarm is going? Somebody needs to change the battery.
That was Abe.
Yeah, I think they
who
should.
said me?
Yeah.
That was my son.
Mhm.
That was my
Long-
son that said
long
that.
story
It's
short,
me,
That was
Dad.
good phone, sir.
Long story short, it's a game about
Should probably
collecting
take care of
items
that.
and running from monsters. And you play with like your actual mic hooked up to the game. So when you're speaking in real life, you're speaking in the game. And some of the monsters can only detect you by sound. So like you go, you hide, and you wait for it to pass. There are so many clips on the internet of people like hiding, and then the smoke alarm detector beeps, and then they get fucking murked by the monster because that goes off.
Mhm.
Hold on, let me find one of these.
Yeah,
Man, someone should take care of that alarm. Damn.
A quiet
It's not
place.
me.
I got it. All right, alarm taken care of.
A quiet
Oh,
place.
shit.
Imagine trying to survive the apocalypse of a quiet place.
A quiet place. I tell you what, I was at a wedding earlier, and the pastor, he goes, because the bride walks up, and he goes, so who's gonna, who is giving the bride away today? And my daughter goes, my daddy,
Huh.
in front of about 200 people.
Okay. Cool.
There many people looking at me. I'm like, I'm not giving her away.
Carrie actually missed about 2.5 hours of show, so no.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Terry.
It's we're probably gonna wrap
Dude,
up here.
I showed up real late too.
Yeah. To be fair, I sent you the email about 4 minutes before 4, so
Oh, that makes perfect sense because I've been asleep since 2.
Yeah, we figured
Nice.
you were out throwing firecrackers at somebody last night. I was like,
Actually, no. I've got a giant pussy of a dog. He's 129 pounds of terrified of things he can hear. He was having panic fits all night, so it's not good. I was busy.
I mean, it's what it is. It's fine. Oh yeah, that's right. I sent you the email last night too. I don't know. I'm all over the place today. I was behind today. I was late today. I was not asleep for once, but I was running behind, and so that's why we started late. I got the link out to people late. I got the notifications out late. All the stuff done late.
I can explain everything. I turned on Ghost in the Machine with Scarlett Johansson and passed the fuck out.
Yeah, that movie had knocked me out too.
Cowboys and Aliens.
I didn't like that movie when it was an anime. So yeah.
I like the story.
Oh, really?
No, it's boring as fuck, and the end sucks.
The movie itself is boring as shit.
Let me guess, Sam. You also don't like Edge Runners. You don't like Cyberpunk.
I don't know what I don't know what that is.
Fucking watch it.
He doesn't
So
like
good.
edging. Terrible.
I like finishing.
It is a cyberpunk anime that is really fucking good. Go watch it. I don't care if you have to pirate it. Go watch it.
I keep telling you guys, I'm not the wife or the waifu or the fucking what's the word for the anime geeks? I forget.
Weebs.
Gays.
Depending on
Gays.
severity.
The weeb. Yeah.
Neither am I.
I'm not the weeb that y'all think I am. I don't watch a bunch of anime. I watch a handful of things selectively. I hate
1/3 of animes that I watch.
Most people your generation have never heard of some of the shit that I'd like to watch. So
Valid. Like Sam, this is coming from someone who put down One Piece and Dragon Ball because I said I don't like this. Watch Edge Runners, and if I'm wrong, I don't know, mystery punishment. I don't know. Just go watch it.
Administer a mystery punishment. Hold on.
I don't think you want to give me license.
Oh.
Oh yeah,
this is reason. Punishment within reason. Punishment within reason.
Wait, hold on.
Punishment. No take back.
No take backsies.
Hold on.
You gotta stipulate everything up front, man. I'm like the devil that way.
Okay, let me just make sure.
Tentacles, dude. You have no choice but to, become some level of like weeb. You have to. You got the tentacles. You got the tentacles. You're halfway there. And the Japanese love tentacle porn.
See, Arden Party's listing stuff in and Carrie's bringing up Robotech. He loves his Robotech.
Robotech's
Macross is better.
Ninja Scroll was all right. Appleseed was pretty good. Yeah, I'll give you that. I liked Appleseed okay.
You like Johnny's Appleseed, Sam?
Anything Tarkovsky done.
No wonder you're green.
Tarkovsky is awesome. Yeah, no,
hilarious.
I don't care what he does. I will watch it. I mean, in my opinion, he's earned a complete flop. If he wanted to just do a comic strip, I'd buy it. You know what I mean?
Samuel the hentai.
Exactly.
Near enough, right?
Hey, speaking of hentai, I have a question. Shadow, why is there a $20 symbol next to your name?
I'm just noticing that. I hate you, Larry. Why did you do this? Why do you do this to me, Larry?
I did it.
Because this is shit you would do, and Sam is too lazy to do it.
So I did it, but yet Sam has. Wait. Sam has succulent tentacle underneath his name, and you think I did it?
Because I'm too lazy to do that shit myself.
Okay, Larry, there are only two people on this fucking panel who have power. That's you and Sam. Sam is lazy. Sam would never do that.
No. A certain demon also has access, and since you don't have access, you wouldn't see him if he popped up on here and started messing with stuff. Devil has access too.
So does Gal.
And so does Gal.
Plausible deniability, and I'm not going to buy it there, sir. You are the antagonistic agent in this case. Continue your conversation.
Prove it.
Okay, now I think it may have been
Squatch. Prove it, Perry Mason.
It was Squatch.
And once again, Perry pops in at the end of the show to just start shit with everybody.
I said Larry, Carrie, you would do something way meaner. Yeah.
Anyhow, this is probably a good place to end it because otherwise I'm going to start recommending that, you should go watch some like old ass actual hentai like Alien from the Darkness.
That's right.
Oh, God, no, not again. Not again. No.
Anyhow,
Or
I
dick
see
shot.
now he's muttering succulent to himself. Did
That
you
beautiful green tentacle.
like miss your meds or something today?
Look at the.
All right.
bump of the tentacle.
Well, that's
Yeah,
enough of that
herpes, don't
nonsense.
Sam, what the fuck did you do in his brainwashing?
He's got.
I didn't do nothing. He's
got
just
herpes on
getting
his
all
tip.
fucking weird and
Sam?
gross. So we're gonna close it out
Sam?
here. Stop talking,
Sam?
everybody.
How many nightmares did you give that man last night?
I didn't do anything to him last night. Anyhow, thank you all for
Yeah.
coming.
Mhm.
We're gonna go around the horn and finish this up a little bit. We'll start
Stop
with
muting me.
Abe. I didn't mute you. I told you to shut up, but you didn't.
No, I did. You muted me. I unmuted me. You muted me again.
Good job, Gal. See you later.
Me again.
Good job, Gal.
She's not here. Don't gaslight the kid. She's not here.
Gal hates
no.
me. Womp womp.
Anyhow, Abe, where can people find you? Cliff Notes version.
You can find me everywhere at Abe's Gonna Get You. I've just been approved for the Rumble Creator Program, so if you could follow me over there, that'd be great.
Greed privilege.
I'll be doing Team Play Tuesday, Hump Day Chinwag on Wednesday, Beelzebub, Rockefeller Plaza. Yeah, a ton of shit. Yeah, the usual stuff. But
Yep.
I've actually got tomorrow off. So,
Awesome.
yeah. You'll probably still see me somewhere, though.
Abe's a bit like that rash that gets around. Just open up a web page. He's probably
Yeah, I can't stop myself. Someone's like, do you want to be on the stream? I'm like, I haven't slept in 3 days.
It's
Of
like
course I want to be on.
athlete's foot in Greek locker rooms.
Indeed.
More of
Sasquatch. What do you got
privilege.
going on?
Tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, I will be on the Blast Radius covering this week's news in the most ironical fare I can possibly pull off. There might be additional Ironheart ranting. I can't promise that. We may have tapped it all out, but I hate it. I hate everything about it. I think it's the greatest thing to happen to fucking Disney in the past 25 years. I think it proves my point about how if Disney has to get rid of either Marvel properties or Star Wars, they should keep Star Wars and get rid of Marvel. Not because I like Marvel, but because I like Star Wars.
All right.
Sorry. I got off base.
Oh, that's fine. Shadoo.
Hey everyone, I'm the Shadow of the Hawk. Only thing I've got coming up next week is Monday night, my D&D game. The players are finally getting back into some action, going to find a lost elven kingdom, and hopefully there will not be a TPK. And then work schedule makes pretty much everything else unviable, unfortunately. So, sad shadow noises.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Thanks for being here, man. Larry, what do you got coming up?
Well, you could see me in the chat as a moderator for the world famous Exile Lioness 2. She is going on tonight. The thumbnail populated not long ago. And you can check me out on my channel, Knights Lore. I released a video the other day, and I'll be doing some more content sometime this week. And you can catch me next Friday right here on Abyssal Musings.
All right, sweet. And as for myself, so be over on Exiled Lioness 2 here later tonight. And then the next official thing is Abyssal Musings next week, next Friday, and then a Beelzebub after that. There will not be a Mellow Mondays on Adam the Renaissance Nerds channel this Monday. And there will not be a Screaming into the Void next Friday. There will, however, resume the week after that. So, because I got family obligations, so we're not doing a show that Saturday. But otherwise, yeah, same shit. I'll be doing some game streams, so look out for those. They'll pop up when and where they do. And yeah, thanks to everybody for being here. Thanks for the conversation. I think we actually had a conversation today instead of acting like a bunch of fucking dogs chasing a squirrel. And thank you all in chat for hanging out and putting up with us. We appreciate all you guys. Hope you have a great weekend. Happy 4th of fucking July. I know it's the 5th, but you know, we didn't get to say it on this show yet. So happy birthday, America.
God bless us, everyone.
As far as Canada Day goes, I mean, that doesn't really matter. So, you know, you can say happy 4th of July too. Thanks. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. Be safe. And remember, it could always be worse. It could be raining flaming cobras. And bye, everybody.